Chapter 1640. When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Not only did he know who the person from 40,000 years ago that the Emperor Qianlong mentioned was, he also knew that the person was not dead. If there was anyone who could obtain the recognition of the human emperor's palace 40,000 years ago, there was only one person, Monk Daming. In that case, just now, the phantom of the human emperor that appeared to intimidate the greater races was the work of Monk Daming. At that thought, Su Zimo's heart was filled with emotions. It had to be said that Monk Daming was indeed the most terrifying genius in that era. Not only did he enter the human emperor's palace, he even obtained the recognition of the guardian, who wanted him to become the successor of the human emperor's palace, to continue protecting the human race. Unfortunately, by chance, Monk Daming fought with the blood demon Dao Lord, and both of them disappeared without a trace. It was only in this lifetime that Monk Daming reappeared. This time round, his reappearance also displayed how terrifying Monk Daming was. It was not only reflected in his combat strength. What was even more frightening was his intellect and scheming. He was behind the battles in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, Heaven and Earth Valley, and Six-Star Mountain. He was the biggest winner behind all those battles. Su Zimo was known as the strongest monster incarnate in history. However, in this lifetime, Qinglian's true body did not have any advantage against Monk Daming. To be precise, Qinglian's true body was led by Monk Daming almost the entire time. The two of them fought once and Qinglian's true body was completely defeated. If there was anyone of the same cultivation realm that Qinglian's true body had no confidence against, that person would be Monk Daming. 40,000 years of imprisonment had changed Monk Daming way too much. He cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. In fact, in order to cultivate that fiend technique, he did not hesitate to set up a trap in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple to lure many greedy cultivators in. During the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley, he hid behind the scenes and schemed against all the experts in the world, including the primordial races, and even heavenly secrets. He made use of the battle between Su Zimo and Enigma Palace to infiltrate and steal the Mystic Heaven record. It seemed that no one could escape from his calculations. It was as if everyone was his chess piece. However, Monk Daming had once spared Su Zimo's life because of a string of prayer beads. He even gave the complete Daming prayer beads to Su Zimo. His hands were stained with blood. However, he set up a spatial seal outside Six-Star Mountain and killed all the Bloodvine race on Six-Star Mountain. He cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend scripture and was bloodthirsty by nature. Su Zimo's bloodline was definitely a great tonic for him. However, he had saved Su Zimo several times. Today was the convention of the 10,000 races, and the primordial races were killing wantonly with arrogance. In the cultivation world, not many people dared to stand out. However, he used the human emperor mirror to reflect the phantom of the human emperor to help the human emperors intimidate the primordial races. Monk Daming was a contradictory person. The moment Su Zimo saw Monk Daming, he had such a feeling. He had never seen a person with such a strong fiendish and Buddhist nature. Monk Daming cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and was bloodthirsty and cruel. However, he had once cultivated in the Buddhist monasteries and was benevolent and pitied all living beings. When a person had such a strong fiendish and Buddhist nature, it meant that they were enduring torment and torture at all times. Monk Daming could have made a choice. He had already cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and could have given up on his Buddhist nature completely to free himself. However, he did not. Actually, Monk Daming was not a true human. Half of the bloodline of the Heavenly Eye race flowed through his body. With that identity, he should not have been the successor of the human emperor's palace. 40,000 years ago, the guardian of the palace must have hesitated for a long time and endured immense pressure when he made this choice. But today, Su Zimo wanted to tell the guardian of the palace. Back then, his choice was not wrong. Even though Monk Daming cultivated a fiend technique today, he did not degenerate completely into a fiend. Instead, he stood out in the convention of the 10,000 races. Guardian of the palace, come out! Shen Huang sneered and said in a deep voice, "There's no need to play tricks here. You're already old, and the successor you chose died 40,000 years ago. The doors of the human emperor's palace rose, and a figure walked out of the palace and stood in the air. It was the mysterious old man that Su Zimo had seen in the human emperor's palace. The guardian of the palace tapped gently with his finger, and a jade-green light entered the old man's withered essence spirit. In the void, there was an extremely powerful divine power that permeated the air. The jade-green light was filled with shocking vitality. Emperor Qianlong said, "With this peerless divine power, the life of the storyteller is temporarily preserved." True enough, under the nourishment of the jade-green light, the old man's essence spirit regained its vitality and regained consciousness. He channeled his essence spirit and used his blood not far away to reconstruct his physical body in the blink of an eye. Of course, his aura was still extremely weak. Although it was filled with vitality, it could not replenish his lifespan. And the old man's lifespan was almost depleted. The guardian of the palace frowned. "I didn't expect you to appear." The underworld witch emperor smiled and said, "However, in this generation, the fate of the human race has run out. You can't save them." The guardian of the palace said in a deep voice, "Everyone, the human race can give up most of their territory. But Penglai Island can't hold so many humans. No matter how weak the human race is, they can't be bullied by the other races. The human race must occupy one of the 4 regions." The Golden Crow Fire Emperor laughed and said, "Guardian of the palace, it seems like you still don't understand the current situation. You may not be able to leave today. Guardian of the palace, you've only comprehended 5 peerless divine powers. Moreover, you're already old. Even I can suppress you." The Rakshasa Emperor sneered. "Brother Rakshasa, you don't have to do it." Shen Huang's eyes were cold as he said coldly, "I'll kill him for everyone." Shen Huang activated his blood essence, and a golden spear appeared in his palm. He took a step forward and arrived in front of the guardian of the palace. "Kill." Shen Huang raised his spear and stabbed forward. There were no complicated moves. It was just a simple spear strike. It was filled with dazzling divine light and arrived in an instant. The guardian of the palace suddenly straightened his back. He raised his hand and held a short spear. It was only a foot long. To be more precise, it was a brush. It was jade green and crystal clear like jade. The tip of the brush was made of unknown silver threads. It looked sharp and sharp. Swoosh! The guardian of the palace waved the jade brush in his hand and pointed it at Shen Huang's spear. Boom! The seemingly weak and delicate jade pen collided with the sharp and fierce spear point, causing a loud explosion. A terrifying strength suddenly exploded, filling the air with a massive halo of strength. "This is the Emperor Brush." The Emperor of the Qin Dragon narrowed his eyes and murmured. End of chapter. Chapter 1641. The Emperor Brush was the supreme Dharma treasure that the human emperor used to dominate Tianhuang mainland back then. In the ancient war, countless experts of the primordial races died under the brush of the human emperor. A single brush stroke could determine the life and death of an emperor. A single stroke of the brush could cut down divine weapons. In the ancient era, the human emperor wielded 3 Dharma treasures and was invincible in the world. The 3 Dharma treasures were the Emperor Brush that was number 1 in killing, the Human Emperor Mirror that was number 1 in defense, and the Human Emperor Seal that was number 1 in strength. Right now, the Human Emperor Mirror and Emperor Brush had appeared. The Human Emperor Mirror was in the hands of Monk Daming. The Emperor Brush was in the hands of the Palace Guardian. The appearance of the jade-green Emperor Brush caused the pupils of the experts of the primordial races to constrict with wary expressions. "Kill!" Tian Shenhuang was fearless as he hollered. The divine blood in his body surged, and a gigantic phantom of a heavenly god descended. His combat strength increased exponentially as he charged towards the Palace Guardian. The Palace Guardian chanted and released a series of secret skills. His aura rose continuously, and his blood chi surged. The Palace Guardian waved the Emperor Brush in his hands and clashed with Tian Shenhuang continuously. The void trembled and gigantic cracks appeared one after another. The battlefield had already collapsed, and even ordinary emperors would die if they were accidentally sucked in. This was a battle between top emperors. The living beings of the 10,000 races had long retreated far away. Su Zimo had the Emperor Dragon in front of him, and could still observe the battle from a close distance. This battle was a rare opportunity for Su Zimo's two true bodies to learn and comprehend. Right now, it was clear that both parties were not using their full strength. They were only competing in blood qi and melee combat. Once they used their divine powers, it would be even more terrifying. Su Zimo asked softly. Tian Shenhuang has comprehended 4 supreme divine powers. Normally speaking, his combat strength should be equivalent to a human emperor, who has comprehended 6 supreme divine powers. The palace guardian has only comprehended 5 supreme divine powers. How can he fight against Tian Shenhuang without being disadvantaged? Because of the human sovereign palace. Emperor Qianlong explained. This human sovereign palace is the last sovereign weapon that the human sovereign crafted before he ascended. It is left on Tianhuang mainland and contains the human sovereign's ultimate power and suppression. The palace guard never left the human emperor palace. In fact, he was only able to fight Shenhuang with the help of the human emperor palace. Golden Spear Armored Horse. At this moment, Shenhuang was getting impatient as he saw that his attacks were not successful. He waved his spear and pointed it in the direction of the palace guard. Rumble. Behind Shenhuang, a large group of ancient cavalry appeared. The warriors wielded long spears and wore battle armor. Even the war horses they rode were covered in armor. Only a pair of eyes could be seen, emitting a dim light. The halberds of these cavalrymen flickered with golden light. The sound of their hooves was like thunder, deafening to the ears. The cavalry galloped over and almost crushed the sky. Dense cracks appeared in the sky. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. All the living beings of the myriad races were aghast. This kind of momentum was too terrifying. The cavalry galloped over and could trample the entire Enigma Palace into pieces, turning it into ruins. An unparalleled mystique. Only an unparalleled mystique could unleash such shocking power. The palace guard's expression was solemn. He waved the emperor brush in his hand and drew a line in front of him. He shouted, "Draw a prison!" Rumble. Streaks of green divine light burst out from the human emperor's pen and disappeared into the void. Under the gaze of many cultivators, the ground beneath the cavalryman's feet suddenly cracked open. Giant stone pillars that reached the sky formed a huge prison. These stone pillars were covered with sharp spikes. This prison had imprisoned all of deity Emperor Tian's soldiers inside. Rumble. 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 The two unparalleled mystiques collided in midair, creating a loud explosion that shook the heavens and the earth. Not long after, the two unparalleled mystiques gradually dissipated. The powerful mystiques still lingered in the void, making one's heart palpitate. Good, you do have some tricks up your sleeve. Cold light surged in Shenhuang's eyes as he said murderously, "Let's see how long you can last." The Emperor Qianlong sighed. Su Zimo frowned as well. Although the palace guard was backed by the human emperor palace and received endless support from the human emperor palace, he was old after all. On the other hand, Tian Shenhuang was at his peak. Once he entered a tough battle, the palace guard would not be able to hold on. At this moment, the dragon phoenix true body squinted his eyes. A gray mist surged out between his hands and quickly formed a long saber between his palms. Great Mystique Time Saber. Swoosh. The gray saber slashed down at Tian Shenhuang. Hehe. The emperors had already seen this, but they did not stop it. Instead, they sneered with mockery in their eyes. How ignorant. Do you think you can hurt Tian Shenhuang with a great mystique? The Golden Crow Fire Emperor sneered. The underworld which emperor did not speak. Instead he frowned. He sensed an unusual aura from the saber. Humph. Although Tian Shenhuang was fighting the palace guard, he was observant. When he sensed the gray saber behind him, he could not help but laugh. Light of a firefly, the heavenly god emperor didn't even turn his head. With a backhand grab, he crushed the gray saber into pieces. His palm was naturally safe and sound, completely unscathed. But soon Tian Shenhuang's face changed. Something was wrong. In that instant just now, his lifespan had actually decreased by more than 30,000 years. This time, deity Emperor Tian was shocked. Normally, the lifespan of a Protoss was twice as long as that of a human. In other words, the lifespan of an Emperor Protoss was as long as 200,000 years. But the heavenly deity emperor's talent was terrifying. He had cultivated to this level. And now he was only 100,000 years old. When the saber slashed down, he had become 130,000 years old. An illusion? Tian Shenhuang could not react for a moment. He condensed his divine ability and wanted to recover his lifespan. As far as he was concerned, how could such a powerful divine ability affect him? Even if his lifespan was reduced, as long as he used the power of the divine ability, his lifespan would be restored to its original state. But in the next moment, Tian Shenhuang's face turned completely gloomy. His 30,000 years of lifespan had disappeared forever. The Underworld Witch Emperor and the others also noticed the changes in Tian Shenhuang's body. The reduction of lifespan by this divine ability is irreversible? It's just a great divine ability. How can it hurt Tian Shenhuang? The Golden Crow Fire Emperor and the others frowned. The Underworld Witch Emperor said in a deep voice, "Everyone be careful. Araki Takashi's great divine ability is a little strange. You can't use your flesh and blood to resist it. You can only defeat it with the power of the divine ability." "Junior, how dare you?" Tian Shenhuang sensed the changes in his body and was furious. He abandoned the palace guard and turned to attack the Dragon Phoenix True Body. He was not injured at all in the battle with the palace guard. He did not expect that the Dragon Phoenix True Body's saber would cut off 30,000 years of his lifespan. End of chapter. Chapter 1642. Tian Shenhuang turned around and charged at him. The Dragon Phoenix True Form had already formed a second blade of time and slashed it at Tian Shenhuang. Tian Shenhuang's pupils contracted and his heart skipped a beat. This time, he did not dare to be careless. He swung his golden spear and pointed it at the gray blade. However, the gray blade did not seem to have a physical body. It went through the golden spear and slashed at Tian Shenhuang. Hiss! The heavenly god emperor sucked in a breath of cold air, and his expression changed drastically. Although the blade of time was not a peerless superpower, it was the power of time. It was the most illusory and difficult to understand. Weapons like Dharma treasures could not stop the flow of time. Tian Shenhuang could not let the second blade of time land on him. If he was slashed, he would become 130,000 years old and still be at his peak. However, if he was slashed again, he would become 160,000 years old and start to fall from his peak. He could not bear such a loss. Tian Shenhuang did not have time to think. He immediately unleashed the Protoss's innate superpower, the Divine Blood Ring. Boom! The blood in Tian Shenhuang's body surged. With his body as the center, a dazzling golden divine ring suddenly appeared and spread out in all directions. The divine ring swept past the blade of time and destroyed it instantly. The blade of time was smashed into pieces and turned into nothingness. After all, the blade of time was only a superpower. It could not withstand a single blow from a peerless superpower. The power of the divine blood ring did not weaken after destroying the blade of time. Instead, it continued to envelop the Dragon Phoenix True Form. Emperor Qianlong stood up and stretched out his hand. While he was still in the air, a powerful azure dragon claw appeared. It was filled with peerless superpower as it clawed at the divine ring. Boom! The divine blood ring collided with the azure dragon claw, and a loud bang was heard. Emperor Qianlong's body trembled. This divine blood ring was also crushed by the azure dragon's claw. The divine ring collapsed, but the power of the divine ability reverberated in the air, lingering for a long time. Tian Shenhuang, what are you trying to do? Ancient draconic qi circled around Emperor Chen's body as his body expanded. He was ready to transform into his dragon form and fight Tian Shenhuang. Shenhuang stopped in his tracks with a wary expression. Shenhuang, go ahead. We'll help you keep an eye on the dragons. No one will disturb you again. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor said coldly. The 5 great emperors were naturally happy to see this scene. Let Shenhuang and the palace guards fight to the death while they watched coldly from the sidelines and reaped the benefits. God, Shenhuang was not a fool. He wanted to kill the palace guardian because he wanted to snatch the human emperor's palace. As long as he obtained the powerful emperor weapon, the human emperor's palace, his combat strength would rise once more. He would be able to fight even if the emperors of the primordial races joined forces. At this thought, Shen Huang glared fiercely at the dragon phoenix true body. He temporarily gave up on this side, and once again turned to attack the palace guard. Rumble. This time, deity Emperor Tian directly condensed his bloodline phenomenon. An ancient and majestic pyramid appeared beneath him. It was mysterious and powerful. In terms of aura, it was comparable to the human emperor's palace. Billions of living beings knelt and prayed around the pyramid. Streams of divine power flowed into Shen Huang's body continuously, causing his aura to rise rapidly. Kill. With the power of his bloodline vision, Shen Huang raised his golden spear and stabbed at the palace guard. Boom! The golden spear was like a stream of light. The spear had completely disappeared. In an instant, it was right in front of the palace guard. It was so sharp that it could pierce through everything. The palace guard waved the emperor brush and pointed it forward. Clang! The seemingly soft tip of the brush collided with the golden spear. There was the sound of metal clashing and sparks flying everywhere. The palace guard's expression changed slightly as he took 2 steps back. Swoosh! The golden stream of light pierced towards him again. Tian Shenhuang's spear skills did not have any complicated moves. They were straightforward and simple. He used the fastest speed to unleash the most terrifying power. Clang! 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 The palace guard waved the emperor brush and clashed head-on with Tian Shenhuang. His body kept retreating. In less than 3 breaths, Tian Shenhuang had stabbed his spear dozens of times. The palace guard kept retreating, his expression turning uglier. Bam! In the end, the palace guard crashed heavily into the human emperor's palace. He groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. Palace guard, you're finished. Tian Shenhuang stood on top of the pyramid. Streams of divine light flowed into his body. He held the spear in his hand and his aura surged. He was like a deity. The palace guard's gaze fell on Tian Shenhuang's bloodline vision. With this bloodline vision, Tian Shenhuang's power would continue to rise. It was almost endless. He had to break this bloodline vision to turn the situation around. Go! The palace guard activated his primordial spirit. The human emperor's palace behind him started moving. It shook off countless dust particles and charged towards Tian Shenhuang's bloodline vision with a terrifying aura. The pyramid and the human emperor's palace collided with a loud bang. Tian Shenhuang's body shook violently. He almost fell from the top of the pyramid. Crack! 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 The pyramid cracked and released streams of golden divine light. No matter how strong Tian Shenhuang's bloodline vision was, it could not withstand the might of the human emperor's palace. Humph! Tian Shenhuang's expression was cold. After all, you have only comprehended 5 supreme mystiques. Even with the help of the emperor weapon, you won't be able to last long. Supreme mystique, kingdom in palm. The heavenly godly emperor shouted as he stretched out his hand. Streams of terrifying mystical energy flowed out of his palm and entered the bloodline anomaly below him. The broken pyramid healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Immediately after, the bloodline phenomenon beneath him turned into a streak of light that entered his palm. There was more than 1 pyramid in Tian Shenhuang's palm. There were so many of them that they seemed endless. Beneath each pyramid, there were billions of living beings kneeling. Above these pyramids, there were many powerful protoss. These pyramids floated in the air, supporting the gods. They looked down on all living beings. Golden light filled the air. It was like a kingdom of gods. Tian Shenhuang's bloodline vision was powerful enough. However, this bloodline anomaly was only one of the powers of this peerless divine ability. Kingdom in palm. Emperor Qianlong said solemnly, "This supreme mystique is the Protoss's most powerful killing technique. Even I will not be able to withstand it and escape unscathed. I'm afraid the palace guard will not be able to withstand it." On the battlefield, the guardian knew how terrifying this Abhijna was. With a grave expression, he waved the emperor brush and slit his wrist. In an instant, blood flowed out. The emperor brush's silver tip turned bright red when it came into contact with the blood. The palace guard held the emperor brush and drew a line in the air. A stream of blood shot through the air and did not dissipate. The blood-red light instantly landed on deity Emperor Tian's kingdom of gods. This side of the world of the gods shook a little. but it was not affected at all. End of chapter. Chapter 1643. The guardian gritted his teeth and activated his primordial spirit. He waved the emperor brush and drew another line in the void, leaving behind another bloody mark. This blood scar intersected with the first blood scar, like two long sabers filled with killing intent. After drawing the two lines, the guardian's face paled significantly. Sweat beaded on his forehead. It seemed like he had used up a lot of energy. However, the two lines didn't cause much of an impact on Tian Xinhuang's mystique. The heavenly god emperor held the godly kingdom in his hand and rushed towards the palace guard. The guardian took a deep breath and waved the emperor brush again. He drew two strokes below the two streaks of blood, forming a cross. The two streaks of blood shot towards deity Emperor Tian. Deity Emperor Tian was fearless. He sneered and raised his kingdom of deity in his hand to block the two blood scars. This time, Tian Xinhuang stopped in his tracks. However, the guardian's situation was even worse. After drawing these two bloody slashes, the palace guard's body swayed and became extremely weak. The guardian seems to be writing. Su Zimo frowned and murmured. Emperor Qianlong nodded and said, "This is an extremely powerful mystique. Back then, the human emperor used this mystique, and many emperors were killed. This mystique is called the kill word art." Kill word art. A look of realization flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. The guardian wants to write the word kill. Yes. Emperor Qianlong nodded, then shook his head and said, "However, he is still unable to control this peerless skill. He has already reached his limit after drawing 4 strokes. What should we do?" The dragon phoenix true body frowned. "Are we just going to watch the guardian get killed by Tian Xinhuang?" Emperor Qianlong was silent. The underworld witch emperor, golden crow fire emperor, and the others were staring at him. If he attacked, it would definitely trigger a war between the emperors. The situation would get out of hand, and the forbidden dragon phoenix might die here. To the dragons, this was an unacceptable loss. Emperor Qianlong could only choose to protect the dragon phoenix true body. "I believe that he will definitely come." Right at this moment, the old storyteller looked up into the sky with a devout expression as he muttered softly. Almost everyone was watching the battle in midair, and no one heard the old storyteller's words. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but ask, "Who will come?" The storyteller just looked at the sky and remained silent. In Su Zimo's mind, an extremely bold idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Even he himself was shocked. However, he quickly rejected this idea. "Impossible." Su Zimo shook his head. "Impossible." On the battlefield, the guardian stared fixedly at Xinhuang. He held the emperor brush with both hands and drew the 5th blood mark with trembling hands. The word kill was almost completed. Only the last stroke was left. When the 5th blood mark hit the divine kingdom in his palm, the divine kingdom violently shook and emitted a series of creaking sounds. It seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Even those who weren't kings could see that as long as the protector completed the 6th stroke, he would be able to destroy the divine kingdom within the divine king's palm. However, the palace guardian was unable to continue writing this final stroke. The 5th stroke was his limit. The guardian held the emperor brush, and his vision blurred. He couldn't hold on any longer. "Ha ha ha ha." Xinhuang looked up into the sky and laughed. "Give up, guardian. This is not the ancient era. You are just a dog of the human emperor. In this era, even if the eternal human emperor were to descend, I would still be able to suppress him." Xinhuang was confident. The eternal human emperor was so powerful, but he had only comprehended the 6 paths' ultimate mystique. Now, his combat strength was equivalent to the human emperor, who had comprehended the 6 paths' ultimate mystique. Snap! As soon as deity Emperor Tian finished speaking, a sudden clap of thunder came from the sky and exploded. The creatures of the 10,000 races only felt their ears buzzing, and their minds went blank. They were a little stunned from the shock. Not to mention them, even the expressions of the rulers present changed slightly, and they frowned. The impact on deity Emperor Tian was even greater. His body swayed a little, and the pain in his ears was unbearable. It was as though Shen Huang was being punished by the heavens for provoking the eternal human emperor. The living beings of the myriad races looked up. A huge crack opened up in the sky, and rays of blazing white light burst out from it. It was filled with an extremely terrifying pressure. That might did not seem to belong to Tianhuang mainland, but another dimension. It was as though a hole was torn open in the skies of Tianhuang mainland. The Mahayana patriarchs tore through the voids within this world. But now, a terrifying external power had descended and pierced through this world of Tianhuang mainland. The storyteller looked at the blazing brilliance in the firmaments, and took a step forward to kneel on the ground with an agitated expression. When the palace guardian saw the old man's actions, he seemed to have realized something and exclaimed, "You exhausted your lifespan to release that secret skill?" "Yes," the storyteller replied loudly. The palace guardian had a conflicted expression as he looked at the blazing brilliance in the firmaments. He knelt on the ground and said loudly, "Welcome, Master." "Welcome, Master." Many living beings present were stunned and could not react for a moment. However, the expressions of many emperors changed before long. Wasn't the master of the palace guardian the eternal human emperor? All the emperors cried out in surprise. "Impossible!" The underworld witch emperor shouted. "The eternal human emperor has already ascended to the upper world. There are extremely terrifying great Tao laws between the upper and lower worlds. How can the eternal human emperor return to Tianhuang mainland?" Su Zimo did not say anything, and merely stared fixedly at the firmaments. A figure walked out from the blazing brilliance. The man was extremely handsome and wore white robes. His black hair danced and his eyes were as deep as the starry sky, as though they contained endless mysteries and wisdom. The world seemed to have frozen, and everything in the world was motionless. The man looked down, and his eyes were filled with endless vicissitudes and emotions. At that moment, Tianhuang mainland fell silent. In the depths of the 1,000-year blood sea in Thousand Demon Valley, an extremely terrifying existence retracted his aura rapidly and returned to calmness. In the middle continent, a squeaking sound could be heard coming from an ancient coffin under a graveyard, as if someone was scratching the coffin with their fingernails. However, the sound vanished all of a sudden. The ancient coffin regained its calm as well. Above the East Ocean, a small boat floated. A fisherman wearing a conical bamboo hat was initially crossing his legs and lying leisurely on the boat, basking in the sun. However, all of a sudden, the fisherman shuddered and flipped over, falling into the East Ocean. The moment he entered the sea, the fisherman vanished and transformed into a gigantic fish that swam towards the depths of the sea. End of chapter. Chapter 1644. The Eternal Human Emperor. All the living beings widened their eyes and opened their mouths. They were so shocked that they couldn't say a single word. Disbelief appeared on their faces. The experts of the primordial races were still scared out of their wits and shuddered. This was not the phantom of the human emperor. This was the true eternal human emperor that was condensed with a shuddering Tao and Dharma. Even the strongest emperors such as Tian Shenhuang and the underworld witch emperor could not see through the realm of the eternal human emperor. Given the talent and potential of the eternal human emperor in the past, it was simply unimaginable what realm he had cultivated to. Thump, thump. The experts of the primordial races knelt on the ground one after another, trembling with pale faces. Even the underworld witch emperor, Tian Shenhuang, and the others were no exception. The living beings of the 10,000 races knelt down one after another. Even though the eternal human emperor did not intentionally exude any might, his reputation was enough to shock the 10,000 races. The eyes of many cultivators were filled with endless excitement and fanaticism. The eternal human emperor. In the legends, the most stunning and powerful emperor of the ancient era had descended upon Tianhuang mainland once more at the moment when the human race was in danger. "Greetings, human emperor!" Many cultivators shouted loudly, their spirits high and their minds agitated. With the arrival of the human emperor, who dares to bully the human race? A cultivator shouted. Another person looked at the emperor of the primordial 6 races and grit his teeth. "Just now you primordial races are arrogant. Tian Shenhuang, didn't you want to suppress the eternal human emperor?" Stand up. Tian Huang, why are you kneeling on the ground like a dog? Many cultivators sneered. How is that possible? How is that possible? Tian Huang and the others were sweating profusely as they looked at the man above the firmaments in disbelief, their eyes filled with fear. Descending from the upper realm had completely broken the rules of heaven and earth. After all, the upper dimension and lower dimension were two completely different planes, and there were extremely strict restrictions of the laws of the Grand Tao. To ascend from the lower realm to the upper realm, one had to transcend the heavenly tribulation and survive. As for the people of the upper realm, they would definitely die if they wanted to head to the lower realm. It was precisely because of the existence of the Great Path that the upper realm and the lower realm could not invade each other, and the living beings of the lower realm could naturally grow and cultivate. If a powerhouse from the upper realm could casually descend to the lower realm, the higher level of power from the upper realm could easily destroy a part of the lower realm with a casual palm strike. At that time, the entire world would be in chaos. Although the underworld witch emperor was kneeling on the ground, his gaze was fixed on the primordial human emperor. In the witch tribe, there were records of powerhouses from the upper realm descending. Even if there were powerhouses from the upper realm who broke the laws of heaven and earth and forced their way down, they would have to pay an extremely heavy price. It could be blood, lifespan, or even cultivation. That was a price that the powerhouses of the upper realm could not bear. The underworld witch sovereign did not believe that the eternal human emperor would be safe and sound after descending on Tianhuang mainland. The human emperor turned his gaze to the thousand-year blood sea in the myriad demon valley and frowned slightly. Following this, his gaze turned toward a giant graveyard in the middle continent. It was as if his gaze had penetrated the ground and landed on an ancient coffin. Finally, the human emperor turned his head and looked at the eastern sea. There was no one on the boat in the eastern sea. A look of worry flashed through the human emperor's eyes as he sighed gently. The crisis that the human race was facing was even more serious than he had imagined. Now, although he was summoned by the old storyteller to descend on Tianhuang mainland, he could not stay here for too long due to the restrictions of the laws of this world. Even if he had already sensed the few hidden dangers in Tianhuang mainland, he did not have the time and energy to deal with them. He could only do his best to help the human race tide through the crisis before him. The human emperor retracted his gaze and walked down Enigma Palace. The moment he took a step forward, the world trembled. An extremely terrifying power surged towards the eternal human emperor, as though it wanted to kill him on the spot. The human emperor was expressionless and did not stop in his tracks. However, the power grew stronger and more terrifying, as though it wanted to crush the eternal human emperor into dust. When the living beings of the 10,000 races saw this, they were bewildered, not knowing what happened to the eternal human emperor. However, the emperor's presence vaguely guessed the answer. The laws of heaven and earth of Tianhuang mainland were rejecting the eternal human emperor and wanted to destroy this expert of the upper realm who had barged in. The influence of the laws of heaven and earth was not limited to that. The underworld witch emperor and the others could clearly sense that the aura of the eternal human emperor was declining continuously, and his cultivation realm seemed to be falling as well. However, they still could not see through the cultivation of the eternal human emperor. The human emperor was getting closer and closer to Enigma Palace. Bang! Right then, right in front of everyone, the eternal human emperor took a step forward and shattered. Ah! A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. The sole of the foot shattered, but there was no blood or flesh. The sole of the foot turned into nothingness and was wiped away by the laws of heaven and earth. It was as though a layer of dust was wiped away. The eternal human emperor frowned slightly and looked at his missing foot. His body paused slightly before he continued descending. Bang! His other foot shattered and turned into nothingness as well. Hee hee. Right then, the underworld witch emperor suddenly laughed strangely and declared, "Human emperor, O human emperor, the laws of heaven and earth are irreversible. How can you provoke them? If you want to forcefully descend on Tianhuang mainland, you'll have to pay a heavy price. Human emperor, Let's see if you can descend into Enigma Palace alive. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor sneered and stood up as well. The human emperor did not say anything. His gaze was calm as he continued walking towards Enigma Palace, getting closer and closer. Bang! 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 Half of the human emperor's body had already turned into nothingness and disappeared from the world. Human emperor. When he saw that, the storyteller old man cried out sorrowfully with tears streaming down his face. Master, stop! The guardian of the palace wanted to step forward and stop the human emperor as well. The human emperor shook his head gently and raised his palm to block the guardian. The moment the palm was raised, it was wiped away by the laws of heaven and earth and vanished. The aura of the human emperor was no longer as powerful and terrifying as before, and was unstoppable. The human emperor's cultivation realm was also declining. However, his footsteps never stopped and he continued forward. Human emperor, stop. Human emperor, we already know your intentions. Please take care of yourself and return. Many cultivators were teary-eyed. Every single cultivator felt a sharp pain in their hearts as they watched the human emperor's body disappear from the world bit by bit. The human emperor was the faith of all cultivators. Even if the human race was in trouble, many cultivators did not wish to see the human emperor die here. The human emperor did not stop in his tracks with a resolute gaze. Towards the end, the human emperor's body disappeared entirely, and only an essence spirit was left. The aura of the essence spirit was decreasing rapidly as well. By the time the human emperor's essence spirit descended above Enigma Palace, his cultivation realm was dropping continuously. From an undetectable realm, it was reduced to the Mahayana realm. Not only that, a crack had already appeared on the human emperor's essence spirit. Ha 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 ha. The Shenhuang Tian stood up and exuded a torrential aura, with a rumbling battle intent. The fear in his heart had already vanished and was swept away. The Shenhuang Tian glared at the human emperor's essence spirit not far away and shouted, "Human emperor, let's see how you're going to fight me with a shattered essence spirit." Chapter 1645. The human emperor looked at heavenly Shenhuang and said indifferently, "Seems like too much time has passed, and you've already forgotten the lesson of the ancient war." The gaze of the human emperor's essence spirit shifted to Su Zimo. "Young friend, can I borrow your true body for a moment?" That sentence caused an uproar. The living beings of the 10,000 races looked at Su Zimo with envious and even jealous gazes. Even the emperors present were burning with passion. The human emperor's words meant that he wanted to borrow Su Zimo's Qinglian's true body to fight against heavenly Shenhuang. For Su Zimo, this was an unimaginable creation. Among the experts present, the most suitable and strongest body was definitely the body of the palace guardian. No matter how strong Qinglian's true body was, it could not compare to the body of an emperor. The human emperor was clearly trying to bestow upon Su Zimo an opportunity. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he blurted out without hesitation, "All right." The human emperor's essence spirit flashed and vanished from the spot instantly, turning into a streak of light that entered Su Zimo's consciousness not far away. Within his consciousness, Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit did not resist and handed over control of Qinglian's true body completely. Haha! Heavenly Shenhuang burst into laughter with a fearless expression. "Even if you're an emperor's essence spirit, how much combat strength can you unleash by controlling the body of a Mahayana patriarch? Human emperor, since you're so arrogant, I'll let you die here today." Before his sentence was finished, the blood qi in heavenly Shenhuang's body surged as he wielded his spear and charged towards the human emperor in huge strides. The fact that heavenly Shenhuang could cultivate to this point naturally meant that he was experienced. Right now, the weakest link of the human emperor was Qinglian's true body. As long as he could engage in melee combat and severely injure Qinglian's true body, the human emperor would only be left with an essence spirit and would not be able to cause any trouble. "Protoss, I'll start with you today," the human emperor said coldly. He entered the sea of consciousness of Qinglian's real body and sensed it. Then he stretched out his arm and waved in the direction of the palace guards. Whoosh! The guard loosened his grip, and the emperor brush turned into a beam of emerald light and returned to the hand of the human emperor. The human emperor activated his primordial spirit and waved the emperor brush. In the blink of an eye, he drew 6 bloody scars in front of him. Kill. A kill character that was dripping with blood floated in midair, condensed without dispersing, and suffused with dripping and bone-piercing terrifying killing intent. Peerless divine ability, kill symbol art. Just now, the palace guard was only able to write 5 strokes of the word kill with all his might. But now, the human sovereign was in control of Qinglian's real body. With a wave of his hand, he wrote the word kill in blood. Heaven and earth were constantly shaking. The entire void was sliced into pieces by the word kill. Before Shen Huang could reach Qinglian's real body, the kill symbol art's peerless divine ability had already descended and enveloped him. Shen Huang inhaled a breath of cold air, and his pupils constricted violently. At that moment, he felt an aura of death, as though he would die on the spot in the next moment. It was too terrifying. This peerless divine ability released by the human emperor was much more powerful than he had imagined. There was no time to think. The storage ring on Shen Huang's finger flashed, and a huge golden shield appeared in front of him. Buzz! Deity Emperor Tian activated his divine power, and the golden shield emitted rays of divine light that were dazzling to the eyes. Boom! The bloody word kill landed on the shield, and there was a loud bang. Immediately after, the indestructible golden shield was sliced into a pile of scrap metal by the word kill. Poof! The kill symbol art penetrated Shen Huang's body and sliced his divine body into pieces. Blood splattered and his limbs scattered all over the ground. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked. Shen Huang, whose combat strength was equivalent to comprehending the 6 supreme divine abilities, could not even withstand a single move from the human emperor. This was even after the human emperor's cultivation realm had fallen to the Mahayana realm, and he had lost his physical body, relying on Su Zimos Qinglian's real body. Shen Huang died just like that. The human emperor is way too scary. He's not dead yet. Deity Emperor Tian's primordial spirit escaped. A wave of voices sounded from the crowd. On the battlefield, Shen Huang had already sensed a life and death crisis the moment the golden shield shattered. His essence spirit escaped first and escaped the calamity. Condense. Shen Huang released blood rebirth, wanting to recondense his divine body. Seal. The human emperor said one word indifferently. However, this word seemed to contain an extremely powerful divine ability. Shen Huang's scattered flesh and blood seemed to be completely sealed. The light dimmed, and his qi and blood declined. He could not condense at all. You're still far from being able to challenge me. The human emperor moved and rushed towards the primordial spirit of divine Emperor Tian. Nether Witch Golden Crow, what are you waiting for? Shen Huang screamed in a hurried voice. The human emperor's cultivation realm has fallen, and his physical body is weak. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you don't kill him, the human emperor will never let you off. The Nether Witch Emperor and the others had uncertain expressions. Their eyes flickered as they looked at each other. Those present were all top-tier emperors. They were decisive in killing. In the blink of an eye, they made a decision. Kill. They could also tell that the human emperor was at his weakest now. Although the human emperor's divine ability was unparalleled, Qinglian's true body was the weakest link to them. As long as they could get close, they would definitely be able to kill the human emperor. When Shen Huang saw the human emperor chasing after him, he did not dare to fight him head-on. He hurriedly fled into the distance. At the same time, Shen Huang activated his essence spirit and released an unparalleled divine ability. Darkness Devour. Shen Huang's voice sounded. He was already hysterical. There was no way he could escape after being targeted by the human emperor. However, releasing this unparalleled divine ability could not only hide his tracks, but it could also delay the human emperor's pursuit. When the Nether Witch Emperor and the others attacked, he would be able to escape alive. A pitch-black energy enveloped down. The darkness seemed to be able to devour everything and destroy all life, as it enveloped the human emperor. In this darkness, there was no light at all. It was impossible to distinguish the direction. All gazes and divine senses could not pass through the darkness. The heavenly God King's primordial spirit entered the darkness and instantly disappeared without a trace. Even his aura disappeared without a trace. The human emperor's expression did not change, and his eyes lit up. He glared at the incoming darkness and conjured hand seals repeatedly. Pointing forward, he hollered, "Eternal light!" A ball of light burst forth from the human emperor's fingertip. Initially, it was extremely small. However, it burned brighter and shone with a bedazzling brilliance that spread towards the darkness ahead. Against the power of this unparalleled divine ability, the power of darkness melted instantly like snow meeting the scorching sun. Shen Huang's essence spirit was exposed once more. Godly Emperor Tian's face was filled with fear. He subconsciously turned his head around. His eyes were blazing with boundless light. The next moment, Shen Huang's essence spirit was devoured by the light and destroyed on the spot. No matter how strong his essence spirit was, it could not defend against the power of unparalleled divine abilities. The human emperor attacked and buried Shen Huang with two unparalleled divine abilities. Chapter 1646. Shen Huang had fallen. The Underworld Witch Emperor, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Blood Emperor, the Wind Demon Luosha Emperor, and the Black Pupil Emperor surrounded the human emperor. Human emperor, your physical body was destroyed, and your primordial spirit was severely injured. You won't be able to stay on Tianhuang mainland for long. The Underworld Witch Emperor said slowly. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor sneered and said, "Human emperor, your primordial spirit is injured. Using 2 superpowers in a row is already your limit." At that moment, there was a strange fluctuation in the battlefield. Originally, there were still 5 sovereigns surrounding the human emperor. However, just as the Underworld Witch Emperor and the Golden Crow Fire Emperor were talking to the human emperor, one person suddenly disappeared from the battlefield. The Wind Demon Luosha Emperor had disappeared. Before anyone could react, the Wind Demon Luosha Emperor had already appeared behind the human emperor. He was very close. Teleport. The Emperor Chen Dragon squinted his eyes and exclaimed, "What?" The Dragon Phoenix True Body asked subconsciously. Teleport is a superpower that focuses on speed. It's called teleport. When one's speed reaches the maximum, he can teleport to any part of the battlefield. The Emperor Chen Dragon explained. The human emperor is in danger. The human emperor controlled the Qinglian True Body and was the weakest in close combat. Now that the Wind Demon Luosha Emperor had gotten close to him, he was in great danger. The Wind Demon Luosha Emperor held 2 chilling scimitars in his hands and slashed toward the human emperor's head. At the same time, the Underworld Witch Emperor, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Blood Emperor, and the Black Pupil Emperor all rushed toward the human emperor. They wanted to shorten the distance between them and kill the human emperor. The human emperor's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. Just as the Wind Demon Luosha Emperor appeared behind him, he activated his primordial spirit and said softly, "Time stop." Buzz. An extremely powerful superpower wave spread out in the void and enveloped the 5 sovereigns. Suddenly, the Wind Demon Luosha Emperor's body froze in midair. He did not move at all. The scimitars in his hands were about to land on the human emperor's head, but they could not go any further. The Underworld Witch Emperor, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Blood Emperor, and the Black Pupil Emperor also froze in midair. Their expressions froze. Time had completely stopped. There was an uproar in the crowd. Waves of voices surged and almost boiled over. Emperor Qianlong's eyes were filled with fear as he said, "I did not expect the human emperor to have comprehended this peerless superpower." The barbarian emperor was also speechless. Time stop. Although it's not a killing type of peerless divine ability, its power is too terrifying. With time freeze, I can easily kill my opponent. Emperor Qianlong glanced at the Dragon Phoenix real body and said, "Your time blade is the power of time. This time stop is also the power of time." The Dragon Phoenix True Body looked at this scene thoughtfully. From the sea calming style that the Saber Emperor had passed down, he had comprehended a minor divine ability, the body immobilization technique. Now, the Dragon Phoenix True Body seemed to have comprehended something after seeing the human emperor unleash this unique ability. If the fixed body technique was cultivated to the extreme, it was possible that time would stop. The Dragon Phoenix true body watched the battle from the side and comprehended something. Su Zimo's black-haired primordial spirit was in the sea of consciousness. He watched the human emperor unleash one divine ability after another. The benefits he gained were unimaginable. Of course, Qinglian's real body could not have comprehended any peerless superpower directly. He had just stepped into the Mahayana realm and had not comprehended many minor divine abilities, let alone any major divine abilities. It was impossible for him to comprehend any peerless superpower directly. However, with such an experience, Qinglian's real body would definitely be able to comprehend the peerless superpower with half the effort. This was a rare and precious experience. This kind of opportunity was hard to come by. On the battlefield, the human emperor unleashed time stop. Without turning his head, he waved the emperor brush and pointed it at the demonic wind Rakshasa emperor's forehead. The tip of the human emperor brush looked soft but sharp. It could pierce through divine weapons, let alone the demonic wind Rakshasa emperor's forehead. All of a sudden, the power of a divine ability burst forth from the demonic wind Rakshasa emperor's body, and he suddenly disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in midair far away, and out of the range of time stop. His face was pale, and his expression was fearful as he panted heavily. Although time stop space was not completely sealed, just as his life was hanging by a thread, he unleashed teleport again and left the spot. The emperor brush missed. The human emperor shook his head slightly, and a look of pity flashed across his eyes. This Qinglian's real body was ultimately too weak. Furthermore, it was not his own body. He could not control it well, and his attack speed was much slower. If it was his physical body, the demonic wind Rakshasa emperor would have died 10 times over. Of course, time stop could not last forever. With this delay, the power of the time stop ability had already dissipated. The Underworld Witch Emperor, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Blood Emperor, and the Black Pupil Emperor regained their freedom. A look of fear flashed across their eyes, and they were already hesitant. However, the 4 emperors calmed down very quickly and charged towards the human emperor again. Ah! The human emperor roared into the sky. His eyes shone brightly as he waved his hands as though he was summoning something. Whoosh! The sound of a sharp weapon piercing through the air could be heard. A ray of black light descended from afar and landed on the human emperor's palm. It was an ancient gray mirror that exuded an ancient aura. When it landed on the human emperor's palm, the ancient mirror suddenly released rays of divine light. The human emperor mirror. The human emperor mirror was originally in the hands of monk Daming. Now that the human emperor was fighting, the human emperor mirror was temporarily taken back. Rumble! Right at this moment in the sky, a black spot suddenly fell from the crack that was flashing with dazzling white light. Like a shooting star, it smashed down with blazing flames and shocking pressure. The human emperor activated his primordial spirit, and his body swayed. 2 more heads grew out from his neck, and 4 more arms grew out from both sides of his body. Exceptional superpower, 3 heads 6 arms. The Emperor Chunlong exclaimed, "I finally see the human emperor's famous superpower." The barbarian emperor's eyes were filled with respect as well. Legend has it that in the ancient war, the human emperor relied on this peerless divine power and wielded 3 dermic treasures to fight against the emperors of the primordial races. He suppressed everything and was invincible. Rumble! Suddenly, the black dot in the sky fell and was caught by the human emperor's palm. Everyone took a closer look. It was a huge black seal that shone with a cold metallic luster. It had sharp edges and a terrifying aura. The human emperor's seal had descended. The 3 Dharma treasures that the human emperor used to dominate the world in the primordial age had gathered. "Fight!" the human emperor shouted. He waved the 3 Dharma treasures and unleashed a powerful superpower to fight against the Dark Witch Emperor, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Blood Emperor, and the Black Pupil Emperor. Seeing this, many self-cultivators felt as though their blood was boiling. Everyone felt as though they had returned to the primordial age and witnessed the unparalleled power of the human emperor. Chapter 1647. On the surface, this battle was a battle between the human emperor and the emperors of the primordial races. However, in reality, the human emperor was controlling Qinglian's true body and releasing the peerless divine power, 3 heads 6 arms, to fight against the top emperors of the primordial races. Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit was in his consciousness. When he saw that, an indescribable feeling surged through his heart. Back when this Qinglian's true body was at the Dharma characteristic realm, it cultivated 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics and fought against various powerful enemies. This scene was extremely similar. On the battlefield, the human emperor waved the emperor brush with a sharp edge that judged life and death. He wielded the human emperor mirror to defend against thousands of attacks. He activated the human emperor's seal and smashed it towards the underworld witch emperor, golden crow fire emperor, blood emperor, black eye emperor, wind demon rakshasa emperor and the others. The power of the human emperor's seal was way too strong. This gigantic seal was refined by the human emperor of the ancient era, using the shattered mountains and rivers of the human race. It was a precious weapon of Tianhuang mainland and contained the fortune of the human race. The barbarian race was most wary of the human emperor's seal. The barbarian race had unparalleled physiques and were extremely strong. They were invulnerable to weapons, water and fire, and could defend against almost any Dharma treasure. However, even the emperors of the barbarian race could not defend against the power of the human emperor's seal. When the full power of the human emperor was released, it could even crush the bones and tendons of the barbarian race. Bang! 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 The human emperor's seal smashed down continuously, causing the Dharma treasures of the 5 emperors of the primordial races to fly in all directions and almost lose control. The gigantic seal had clear edges, and even if it was rampaging, the emperors of the primordial races did not dare to take it head-on. In the chaos, the Blood Emperor was enveloped by the divine light of the human emperor mirror and could not break free for a moment. He was almost killed by the human emperor's seal. The Black Eye Emperor dodged slightly slower, and his arm was grazed by a corner of the human emperor's seal. His entire arm was turned into a blood mist in a shocking manner. The human emperor brush was sharp. With a casual wave of the human emperor's seal, a sharp beam burst forth from the tip of the brush and penetrated every orifice. If the 5 emperors were careless, their bodies would be penetrated. The human emperor mirror burst forth with divine light and blocked the momentum of the emperors of the primordial races. Clang! 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 The human emperor's body kept spinning as his 6 arms danced in the battlefield. The Nether Shaman Emperor and the others couldn't get close to him at all. Instead, they were flustered by the human emperor's attacks. The human emperor's primordial spirit is shattered. How can he still unleash such terrifying combat strength? The underworld wizard emperor's heart shook. Eternal curse! The underworld witch emperor shouted. The underworld witch emperor chanted and formed a seal. He circled in the air and finally touched the center of his brows. Wang! A heart-palpitating aura pervaded the air. This divine ability didn't have any concrete form, but even the many living beings watching from afar felt waves of trembling. This is a peerless divine ability of the Magi, a killing technique that targets the primordial spirit. Emperor Qianlong said with a solemn face. When this peerless ability descended, there wasn't much of a ripple on the battlefield. However, in the sea of consciousness of Qinglian's real body, streams of extremely evil dark green energy suddenly emerged and grew endlessly. Eternal curse. Once they fell into it, not only would they perish, even their descendants would be cursed with endless misfortune for generations to come. This was an extremely evil peerless divine ability of the Magi. When the curse descended, one would fall into eternal damnation. When the power of the eternal curse descended, even the grade 8 lotus seed of fate couldn't withstand it. The light on its body flickered, and the multicolored light was completely suppressed. The human emperor was fearless. He sneered and shouted, "Release all the divine abilities." A sacred and auspicious halo suddenly appeared behind the human emperor's primordial spirit's head. It emitted a rainbow-colored glow that spread out in all directions. When the dark green energy of the curse came into contact with the sacred glow, it was instantly purified and turned into nothingness. Su Zimo was shocked. He practiced Buddhism and had heard of many divine abilities of the Buddhist sections. In the Buddhist sects, the most famous were the 6 divine abilities. The heavenly eye could cultivate the heavenly eye of the Buddhist sections. This was just a minor divine ability. However, if one cultivated the Dharma eye of the Buddhist sects, this would be a major divine ability. The pinnacle of the heavenly eye was the Buddha eye. That was a peerless divine ability. Once the Buddha eye was cultivated, a single glance would be enough to make an unpardonable fiend lay down his butcher's knife. The so-called bodhisattva lowering brows was actually the power of the Buddha eye. The second divine ability of the Buddhist sects was heavenly foot. Normally, heavenly foot was only a minor divine ability. After cultivating it, one's movement speed would be extremely fast. However, if it was cultivated to the extreme, it would be a major divine ability that could burrow through the heavens and earth and enter the netherworld. The third divine ability was heavenly ear. With a twitch of his ears, none of the movements of living beings in a region could escape his ears. The fourth divine ability was mind reading. Although this divine ability was only a major divine ability, it was extremely powerful. Simply put, it could understand the intentions of the other party. Back at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, there were many times when Monk Yuan Bei knew Su Zimo's intentions, even before he spoke. That was the effect of this major divine ability. In battle, it was to predict the enemy's moves. The fifth divine ability was destiny reading. This major divine ability could peer into the fate of living beings. Throughout history, the first 5 divine abilities of the Buddhist sects were cultivated by countless experts. However, there were very few who could cultivate the 6th divine ability. Throughout history, the ancient Buddha emperor was the only one who succeeded in cultivating it. The 6th divine ability of the Buddhist sects was the leakage divine ability. At greater mastery, this divine ability could remove the worries of controlling and transcend reincarnation. With supreme wisdom, one could cultivate the leakage Buddha light, and the power of their essence spirit would increase exponentially. Right now, in Su Zimo's consciousness, the human emperor's essence spirit released the leakage divine ability, and a sacred and flawless Buddha light spread, purging the curse. When the Buddha light shone on the creation lotus platform, every single lotus leaf shone with a crystalline luster. To the lotus platform of creation, this kind of energy was simply an unimaginably great supplement. The Buddha light was endless. Even if the creation lotus platform absorbed a little of it, there would be an extremely obvious increase in its growth speed. Ugh! The underworld witch emperor's expression changed slightly as he grunted. A fight between essence spirits was the most dangerous. With the eternal curse broken, the underworld witch emperor's essence spirit also suffered quite a bit of impact. Of course, his essence spirit was condensed, and this bit of impact could not hurt his foundation. At that moment, the leakage divine ability's sacred Buddha light shone out from the glabella of Qinglian's true body and landed on the human emperor mirror. The human emperor sneered and turned the human emperor mirror towards the underworld witch emperor. The sacred Buddha light passed through the human emperor mirror and was refracted, becoming extremely condensed and forming a beam of light that shone on the underworld witch emperor's body. Ah! The underworld witch emperor screamed as thick smoke rose from his dark green Taoist robes, as if his body was burning and rotting. This Buddhist light caused too much damage to him. Whoosh! The underworld witch emperor's figure turned into a stream of light and fled into the distance, without staying in Enigma Palace. The human emperor wanted to chase and kill the underworld witch emperor, but the other 4 emperors' peerless divine abilities had already descended. Chapter 1648. Eye of Petrification. The Black Pupil Emperor released his innate ability. The heavenly eye in his glabella opened, and a strange force enveloped the human emperor. Qinglian's flesh and blood suddenly became extremely stiff. Her blood could not circulate, and her skin became rough like a rock. In the blink of an eye, the human emperor was frozen on the spot and turned into a human-shaped rock. He was in a 3-headed 6-armed stance and did not move at all. Su Zimo was shocked. Although Qinglian's true body had obtained the fortune of heaven and earth, she had just entered rank 8 after all. Furthermore, Su Zimo had just advanced to the Mahayana realm and had only comprehended a few minor abilities. He had not comprehended any supreme abilities and had not even come into contact with major abilities. Qinglian's true body had not experienced the baptism of major and supreme abilities. Her strength and bloodline were too weak. The human emperor was frozen by the eye of petrification, not because he was not strong enough. It was because Qinglian's true body was far from being a match for the strongest emperors of the primordial races. At the same time, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Blood Emperor, and the Wind Demon Rakshasa Emperor attacked at the same time and released their supreme abilities. Phantom Slash. The Wind Demon Rakshasa Emperor wielded 2 sabers and turned into a streak of black light. He burst forth with extreme speed and charged towards the human emperor with the power of a powerful divine ability. Swoosh! Suddenly, dozens of Wind Demon Rakshasa Emperors appeared around the human emperor. It was hard to tell which was the real one. All of these figures charged towards the human emperor. Only one of the dozens of figures was the Wind Demon Rakshasa Emperor's true body. However, if he made a wrong judgment, he would definitely die. On the other side, the Blood Emperor had transformed into his true body and was rooted in the ground. He waved thousands of thick blood vines and spewed endless blood. Supreme ability Boundless Blood Sea. The Blood Emperor activated his essence spirit and used his blood essence as a guide, causing the entire world to be covered in the color of blood. A boundless blood sea condensed in the void and engulfed the human emperor. The Blood Emperor's figure had completely disappeared and was hidden in the boundless blood sea. With this supreme ability, even if the opponent wanted to retaliate, they would not be able to find the Blood Emperor's trace. Burning the heavens and boiling the seas, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor shouted as he waved his hands in front of him, forming a huge fireball. This fireball emitted an extremely terrifying temperature that could even incinerate the 9 heavens, boil the oceans, and burn all living beings into ashes. Burning the heavens and boiling the seas, Emperor Qianlong said solemnly, "This is a powerful superpower that can only be formed when one has comprehended the fire element to the extreme." The eyes of petrification froze the human emperor, and the 3 unparalleled divine powers descended. In the sea of consciousness of Qinglian's true body, Su Zimo's black-haired primordial spirit looked at the primordial spirit of human emperor not far away. Even though he was in such a dangerous situation, there was no hint of panic or fear on the face of the human emperor's essence spirit. It was calm and composed. Break! The human emperor activated his primordial spirit, and an extremely terrifying Abhijna burst forth from his body again, instantly breaking out of his petrified state. Countless rocks fell from his body and dust rose up. Phantom Slash. The human emperor's face was filled with mockery, and his eyes were deep. He suddenly released his grip, and the human emperor mirror spun, emitting a beam of divine light that landed on one of the Rakshasa emperor's figures. To the people present, there were dozens of Rakshasa emperors' afterimages, and it was impossible to tell which one was real and which one was fake. Even Emperor Qianlong and the others would have a hard time dealing with the murderous power of this peerless skill. The Dragon Phoenix true body watched coldly from the sidelines. Even with his powerful spiritual senses, he could not figure out what was going on. However, the human emperor found the real body of the Rakshasa emperor with one glance. The moment the human emperor mirror emitted a beam of divine light, the emperor brush turned into a beam of light and pierced towards the Rakshasa emperor. It arrived in an instant. So powerful. The Rakshasa emperor was shrouded in the light of the human emperor mirror, and his body shook as he exclaimed in his heart. The emperor brush had already pierced towards him, and he did not have time to think. He immediately used the unparalleled divine powers to teleport away. However, the Rakshasa emperor's expression changed drastically when he used the unparalleled divine powers. It was ineffective. This time, the human emperor did not use the time stop. The beam of divine light emitted by the human emperor mirror was a spatial seal. The Rakshasa emperor knew that things were not going well. In a battle of this level, a single mistake in judgment could very well lead to death. The Rakshasa emperor did not have time to think. He flapped his huge wings and activated his blood chi. His speed reached its limit as he fled into the distance, trying his best to avoid the Emperor Brush's attack. The human Emperor mirror only sealed a part of the space, so that the Rakshasa Emperor could not teleport within it. He could use the speed of the Rakshasa race to escape from this place. The Rakshasa Emperor believed that with his speed, even the Emperor Brush could not catch up to him. This time, he already had the intention to retreat. With the human Emperor here, their plan would not succeed. The Rakshasa Emperor believed that the human Emperor would not stay for long after breaking the laws of heaven and earth and descending to Tianhuang region. He could choose to avoid the attack and wait for the human Emperor to leave before they made a comeback. However, the human Emperor had already seized the opportunity when he was delayed. The Emperor Brush arrived in front of him. The 3,000 silver threads at the tip of the brush suddenly spread out and extended dozens of feet. As though they had a mind of their own, they enveloped the Rakshasa Emperor. The Rakshasa Emperor was caught off guard by this sudden change. Almost instantly, he was entangled by the 3,000 silver threads. The 3,000 silver threads formed the tip of the Emperor Brush. Every single silver thread was sharp and did not lose out to divine weapons. They coiled around the Rakshasa Emperor's body and tore through his flesh instantly. The Rakshasa Emperor was already drenched in blood. Most importantly, his wings were completely trapped by the silver threads and could not break free. All of a sudden, the Rakshasa Emperor only felt a shadow looming over him. Before he could react, the human Emperor's seal had already landed heavily on his body. Exclamation point. Blood splattered everywhere. The living beings of the myriad races felt their teeth ache. The barbaric emperor was even more shocked. Even his physical body could not withstand the power of the human emperor's seal, let alone the Rakshasa Emperor. Under everyone's gaze, the Rakshasa Emperor was smashed into a bloody pulp by the human emperor's seal. Not a single bone was left intact. He's dead. Emperor Qianlong murmured. The Rakshasa Emperor's primordial spirit did not escape? The dragon phoenix true body asked hurriedly. Emperor Qianlong shook his head and said, he was trapped in the 3,000 silver threads of the Emperor Brush. Even if his primordial spirit broke free, it could not escape from the 3,000 silver threads. Moreover, his primordial spirit was smashed to death by the human emperor's seal before it could even leave his body. Emperor Kuan's expression was complicated. He said softly, as expected of the human emperor of all ages. He did not even use his mystique. He killed a top emperor with just the 3 emperor weapons. A look of admiration flashed across Emperor Kuan's eyes. This kind of expert, this kind of invincible demeanor, even she was subdued. Chapter 1649. After killing the wind demon Rakshasa Emperor, the 3 emperor artifacts had left the human emperor. At this moment, the Blood Emperor's supreme ability descended. The boundless sea of blood surged and engulfed the 3 emperor artifacts. The human emperor could no longer sense the aura of the 3 emperor artifacts. Let's see what else you can do after losing the 3 emperor artifacts. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor's aura surged as he shouted, and threw the huge fireball in his hand at the human emperor. At the same time, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor transformed into his true form and roared into the sky. His entire body turned into a golden flame and pounced towards the human emperor. On the other side, the boundless sea of blood was surging over, burning the heavens and boiling the sea. I can do that too. The human emperor's expression was calm as he said slowly, I'll let you see what the true burning of the heavens and boiling the sea is. Before he finished speaking, the human emperor opened his arms and activated his primordial spirit. An extremely terrifying and scorching aura burst out from his body as the power of his divine ability spread out. Swoosh! Around the human emperor, a large patch of scarlet flames suddenly ignited and spread continuously. In the blink of an eye, it formed a boundless sea of fire. It was also a supreme ability. However, the power of the human emperor's burning of the heavens and boiling the sea was much stronger than the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's. The huge fireball formed by the Golden Crow Fire Emperor fell into the sea of fire and was quickly engulfed by the sea of fire. The flames burned brightly. The sea of fire descended into the boundless sea of blood. Gulp! Gulp! Almost in the blink of an eye, the the boundless sea of blood was already boiling. The human emperor's supreme ability was not boiling an ordinary sea. It was the boundless sea of blood released by the Blood Emperor. The sky was burning red. The sea of blood was also boiling. To be precise, not only was the sea of blood boiling, it was also rapidly evaporating. Blood chi filled the air and drifted towards the sky. A warm scarlet rain of blood fell from the sky. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor screamed before he could reach the human emperor. His voice was filled with endless fear. He was originally the living being that was most proficient in flames among the primordial 9 races. However, at this moment, he was burned by the human emperor's burning of the heavens and boiling the sea. The feathers on his body were charred black. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor fled frantically into the distance. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. The flames released by the human emperor had almost burned his organs to ashes. Even his essence spirit had been burned. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor was no longer as high-spirited as he was just now. Like a scorched vulture, he flapped his wings and fled into the distance in an extremely pathetic manner. The human emperor frowned. Even though the Golden Crow Fire Emperor was severely injured, his speed was still too fast. He was relying on Qinglian's real body. Even if he could catch up, it would take a long time. He couldn't hold on at all. At this moment, he already felt waves of exhaustion. He could not last much longer in Tianhuang mainland. As he thought of this, the human emperor gave up on chasing after the Golden Crow Fire Emperor. Instead, he poured all of his energy into the boundless blood sea. In just 2 or 3 breaths of time, the boundless sea of blood had already dried up, completely evaporating. This time, not only did the human emperor's 3 imperial weapons reveal themselves, but even the Blood Emperor's body was exposed. There was no way he could escape. The Blood Emperor's expression was terrified. He couldn't care less about his dignity and hurriedly begged for mercy. "Human Emperor, please spare me. I was wrong. Human Emperor, please spare me." The human emperor sneered and the sea of flames descended, engulfing the Blood Emperor's body. Ah! 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 Thousands of thick blood vines struggled in the sea of flames as the Blood Emperor let out a tragic cry. The blood vine race was most afraid of flames. Furthermore, this was a supreme mystic power released by the human emperor. Even the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, who cultivated the sun essence fire, was almost burned to death. Let alone the Blood Emperor, who had an even lower combat strength. In a few breaths of time, the Blood Emperor's tragic cries had already disappeared. In the sea of flames, only the crackling sounds of the blood vines burning could be heard. Even though the blood vine race was one of the primordial races, they were no different from other plants in the flames and gradually turned into ashes. When the blood vine race saw this, they were already trembling in fear. The experts of the primordial races knelt on the ground and did not dare to act rashly right from the beginning. When they saw this, the faces of the primordial races turned pale from fright. The human emperor had only descended for a moment, but the emperors of the primordial 6 primordial races, the Underworld Witch Emperor and the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, had already fled with heavy injuries. The Shenhuang, the Blood Emperor, and the Wind Demon Rakshasa Emperor had died on the spot. Seeing that the situation was bad, the Black Pupil Emperor also wanted to escape. Unfortunately, his movement technique was much slower than the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's. The human emperor waved his sleeves, and the 3 emperor weapons tore through the air. The human emperor mirror floated in midair and emitted a divine light that enveloped the Black Pupil Emperor. The Black Pupil Emperor grunted and felt as if he had fallen into a swamp. It was difficult for him to move. On the other side, the human emperor's seal charged towards the Black Pupil Emperor aggressively. The emperor brush also transformed into a stream of light and stabbed over. "Human emperor, you forced me. I'll fight it out with you." The Black Pupil Emperor roared, and the heavenly eye between his brows opened once again. This time, the Black Pupil Emperor's heavenly eye turned completely black. At the same time, the whites of the Black Pupil Emperor's eyes disappeared and turned completely black. 3 eyes, 3 black pupils. The peerless divine ability that the black-eyed emperor was about to unleash was too terrifying. His eyes immediately exploded, revealing a pair of pitch-black holes. Even the black pupil emperor's heavenly eye could not withstand it, and a streak of scarlet blood flowed out. Boom! These three eyes emitted an extremely terrifying black light that gathered at one point and condensed into a huge beam of light that charged towards the human emperor. An aura that seemed to want to destroy everything spread out. All living beings looked at this black beam of light and felt their hearts tremble. The human emperor's brush pierced the black beam of light and was instantly brushed aside. The black beam of light did not stop at all and collided with the human emperor's seal. With a boom, it actually sent the human emperor's seal of heaven wilderness flying. Even the human emperor's seal could not block this black beam of light. This is the Eye of Annihilation, the Emperor Dragon said solemnly. Emperor Qianlong said, "Who would have thought that the Black Pupil Emperor would be able to master this peerless skill? To be called the Eye of Annihilation, one could see the power of this peerless ability. You want to fight it out with me? You're not worthy." The human emperor's expression was calm as he said lightly. Before he finished speaking, the human emperor waved his sleeves, and a long bridge broke through the air. It extended continuously from the human emperor's feet and collided with the black beam of light. This long bridge was covered with mysterious runes that seemed to confirm the human emperor's Tao and laws, and led to the other side. Peerless ability Permitha Bridge. Boom! The Permitha Bridge collided with the black beam of light and exploded with a loud bang. After a short pause, the black beam of light began to collapse and shatter. At the same time, cracks appeared on the black pupil emperor's body, and blood spewed out from his mouth. "Please forgive us, Senior Human Emperor. Senior Human Emperor, please spare my life." At that moment, the leaders of the primordial races knelt on the ground and prostrated themselves not far away. They did not even dare to look at the human emperor, as they spoke with trembling voices. The human emperor glanced at them indifferently and asked indifferently, "Now, do we humans have the right to talk to you primordial races? We don't dare." When they heard that, the leaders of the primordial races broke out in cold sweat, and their faces were almost plastered to the ground. "Let the convention of the myriad races continue. It's time for me to leave," the human emperor said. "Senior Human Emperor." Many cultivators called out with deep reluctance in their eyes. It was not that the human emperor did not want to attack, but he no longer had any strength. He descended from the upper world, broke through the laws of heaven and earth between the upper and lower worlds, and broke through the world of Tianhuang mainland before descending. The human emperor had paid a huge price in the process. "I've long known about you." Right then, the human emperor said softly. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. In the consciousness of Qinglian's true body, the human emperor's essence spirit turned around and looked at Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit not far away. The people outside didn't hear what he said. That was a private conversation between the human emperor and Su Zimo. "I knew about you the moment you entered the human emperor's palace." The human emperor smiled gently. "Ling Long has a secret skill that allows her to establish a connection with Yuhua. Oh, Yuhua is the guardian of the palace." It was also Ling Long's intention for the pure maiden of the fiend sex to enter the human emperor's palace. "I know everything about you. You established the Wu Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. You're very bold, and I'm not as good as you." "Very good." If these words were heard by the people outside, it would probably cause a wave of shock. In this world, who could be worthy of the human emperor saying that he was not as good as him? "Senior, you're being too serious," Su Zimo said hurriedly. "Compared to Senior's peerless achievements for the human race, I'm still far from it. The fate of the human race on this mainland will be in your hands," the human emperor said in a deep voice. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. The human emperor said, "Don't worry, after today, Tianhuang mainland should have a period of peace. The two emperors of the Witch and Golden Crow race were injured by me. It'll take them at least 1,000 years to recover. During this 1,000 years, you've got to grow as quickly as possible." Su Zimo nodded. "Senior Human Emperor, don't worry. The Protoss's identity as an outsider has been completely exposed, and he'll be isolated by the entire Tianhuang mainland." As for the remaining 5 races, 3 top emperors are dead and 2 are severely injured. I reckon that even if the 2 of them recover, they won't dare to attack the human race anymore. The human emperor's descent this time round had caused the various races to fear him completely. Furthermore, there was the astral dragon emperor among the dragons. With the underworld witch emperor and golden crow fire emperor severely injured, the astral dragon emperor was the strongest emperor in Tianhuang mainland. Even if the astral dragon emperor was at the end of his lifespan, he still had more than 10,000 years left. I hope so. The human emperor nodded and frowned. The hidden dangers of the Middle Continent, Thousand Demon Valley and East Sea flashed through his mind, and he hesitated. Suddenly, he thought of something more important and said, "By the way, there's something else I have to remind you of. My forceful descent into Tianhuang mainland this time round is equivalent to breaking the world of Tianhuang mainland. Given my strength, I won't be able to repair this broken world. As time passes, the laws of heaven and earth on Tianhuang mainland will definitely become unstable. Heaven and earth are flawed and the laws are chaotic." Su Zimo was confused and asked, "What are the consequences of heaven and earth being flawed, and the laws being chaotic?" "I'm not sure how it will affect Tianhuang mainland either," the human emperor said. "However, you have to be careful about this matter. Since I can descend into the lower realm today, the experts of the various primordial races might descend as well." Ah! When he heard that, Su Zimo's expression changed. In that case, wouldn't Daiyu's methods be much more brilliant than the human emperor's? What happened to you? The human emperor asked with a smile when he sensed Su Zimo's abnormality. Su Zimo coughed gently and probed. "Senior, you were invincible in Tianhuang mainland and suppressed thousands of races. Given your talent, how could you not be considered a top expert of the upper world after ascending to the upper world?" Su Zimo did not ask about Daiyu directly. His emotions were extremely conflicted. He was filled with anticipation, but also a little afraid. He was afraid that if he were to ask rashly, his hopes would be dashed without any results. When he heard that, the human emperor could not help but laugh. Which one of those who can ascend to the upper world isn't an invincible monster incarnate? The human emperor shook his head gently. Furthermore, the upper world is extremely vast and has thousands of worlds with countless paragons and monster incarnates. Compared to the upper world, Tianhuang mainland is as insignificant as a speck of dust, and isn't worth mentioning at all. I'm still far from the top experts of the upper world. Thousands of worlds. Su Zimo's expression was lost as he added instinctively. The human emperor smiled gently and explained, "This is something that can only be encountered after ascending to the upper world. There's no harm in telling you now. Legend has it that there are 3,000 worlds in this universe with distinct levels. At the bottom, there are billions of small worlds like the sands of the Ganges River that cannot be calculated. Tianhuang mainland is one of them." Ah! Su Zimo's eyes widened as his heart skipped a beat. The human emperor's words had a huge impact on Su Zimo. Initially, when he heard about the god mainland in Tianhuang mainland, he guessed that there would be many worlds like Tianhuang mainland and the god mainland. However, he had not expected that there would be billions of such worlds like the sands of the Ganges River. As for Tianhuang mainland, it was merely one of the billions of small worlds. Compared to the entire lower world, Tianhuang mainland was nothing much. Compared to the entire universe, it was even more insignificant. At that moment, Su Zimo felt incomparably insignificant. Tianhuang mainland was like a well. Situated in the well, he could only see a palm-sized sky. However, he did not know that outside the well, there was a boundless firmament and a vast world. The human emperor waited for Su Zimo's mind to calm down before saying, "You have a deep understanding of Buddhism. You should have heard of a Buddhist saying, 'A single grain of sand a world.' Actually, that's a description of the billions of small worlds like the sands of the Ganges River." Su Zimo was enlightened. A single grain of sand a world. To think that it had such a meaning. The Buddhist sutras had long described those secrets for future generations to comprehend. However, if not for the human emperor's description, Su Zimo would not have imagined that he would be in such a vast world. If there were billions of small worlds like Tianhuang mainland, the upper world would truly be filled with paragons and monster incarnates, just as the human emperor had said. If there are billions of small worlds in the lower world, what about the upper world? Su Zimo asked again. The so-called upper world is actually formed by thousands of middle worlds. Every single middle world is countless times larger than Tianhuang mainland. The human emperor said. For example, the god world and the witch world are part of the upper world. Pausing for a moment, the human emperor said hesitantly, legend has it that above the upper world, there's a boundless world known as the major world. Of course, I can't be sure about that either. It's just a legend. However, no matter what, there are billions of small worlds, thousands of middle worlds, and a major world, the Trichiliocosm. Su Zimo had once read about the Trichiliocosm in the Buddhist sutras. Initially, he thought that the Trichiliocosm referred to the worlds of Tianhuang mainland and God mainland. There were 3,000 of them combined. However, he did not expect that the true meaning of the Trichiliocosm referred to the small, middle and major worlds. Chapter 1652. After saying that, the human emperor looked up at the firmaments and sighed. I've got to return. There are still many people I have to protect on the other side. When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he asked hurriedly, Senior, have you heard of the vast wilderness? Vast wilderness? The human emperor was momentarily stunned before nodding. The vast wilderness is one of the upper worlds. There are all sorts of ferocious demon beasts roaming within, and they are extremely strong. It's considered as one of the strongest medium-class worlds in the upper world. Su Zimo's eyes were filled with ecstasy. After cultivating for so long, he finally obtained a piece of accurate news. The vast wilderness was one of the medium-class worlds. As long as he could ascend to the upper world successfully, he would have a chance to meet Daiyu. Although Su Zimo was still far away from Daiyu, the two of them were getting closer. The human emperor was about to leave. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air, and finally asked the question that had been on his mind for a long time. Senior human emperor, do you know of Daiyu? Daiyu? The human emperor pondered and shook his head. Su Zimo sighed internally with a look of disappointment in his eyes. However, he was relieved before long. The upper world was way too big. It was made up of thousands of medium-class worlds, and every single one of them could contain countless Tianhuang mainland. The human emperor was not in the vast wilderness, so it was only logical that he had not heard of Daiyu's name. No matter what, Su Zimo knew of the vast wilderness background this time round. His heart was filled with endless motivation. The human emperor tossed the human emperor mirror back to the guardian and nodded slightly. Yu Hua, you've done well. It's been hard on you to protect the human emperor's palace all these years. The matters of Tianhuang mainland have come to an end for now. It's time for you to transcend the tribulation. If you delay it for a little longer, and your blood qi deteriorates, the chances of you transcending the tribulation will be greatly reduced. Thank you, Master. The guardian received the human emperor mirror and bowed respectfully. Do you have a candidate for the next guardian of the palace? The human emperor asked. The human emperor knew that there was another important reason why Yu Hua did not transcend the tribulation. He had yet to find a suitable successor for the human emperor's palace. Not yet. The palace guardian sighed and shook his head. The successor of the human sovereign palace not only had to have outstanding talent and terrifying combat strength, but more importantly, they had to have a good temperament. Since ancient times, there had been many powerful sovereigns. However, if they were like most of the sovereigns in this era, who only cared about their own cultivation and ignored the safety of the human race, such a person was not worthy of being the successor of the mortal emperor palace. Even though he was the successor who guarded the human sovereign palace, he was still a disciple of the human sovereign. But in reality, he was also the successor who protected Tianhuang mainland and the human race. I can recommend someone to you. Human emperor's gaze landed on the old storyteller not far away. What a great honor it was to be recognized by the human emperor. The old storyteller's face was suffused with a red glow as he suddenly straightened his body. His essence, chi, and spirit seemed to have reached their peak. The experts present sighed softly. They could all tell that the old storyteller was in a state of terminal lucidity. It wouldn't be long before the old storyteller perished here. The palace guard said. With his temperament, he is indeed qualified to inherit the royal palace. However, his battle prowess is not enough. He has only comprehended 3 supreme divine abilities. Most importantly, he doesn't have much lifespan left. The palace guard had a regretful expression. The old storyteller paid the heaviest price for forcefully summoning the human emperor this time round. He expended all of his lifespan. Thank you for your favor, human emperor, the old storyteller smiled. However, I feel that I don't have much time left, and am truly unable to inherit the royal palace. I can die with no regrets now that I can receive those words from the human emperor before I die. Master, Lin Xuanji arrived before the old storyteller and knelt down. Initially, it was a joyous thing that the crisis of the human race was resolved. However, at that moment, Lin Xuanji could not feel happy at all. Ever since the day he acknowledged the human emperor as his master, he had been messing around with the old storyteller. There was never any etiquette or hierarchy in front of the old storyteller. If it was any other rigid cultivator, they would have chased Lin Xuanji out of the sect long ago. However, the old storyteller was indifferent. Lin Xuanji had never revealed such emotions in front of the old storyteller. However, at this moment, he knelt before the old storyteller with tears streaming down his cheeks. There's no need for that. The human emperor smiled gently. Ling Long knew that you would expend all of your lifespan after releasing that secret skill. When I descended, she stuffed me with an elixir. As he said that, the human emperor waved towards the rift that shone with a blazing brilliance above the firmaments. It was only at this moment that everyone noticed a small jade-green elixir bottle floating in the firmaments. That was something that fell out when the human emperor's body shattered. However, that scene was way too shocking, and no one noticed the existence of the small elixir bottle. The small elixir bottle was already filled with cracks. It must have endured an immense impact after descending from the upper realm. Thankfully, this small elixir bottle is safe. The human emperor took out the elixir bottle and flicked it towards the old storyteller. He nodded slightly and said, "Eat this elixir. This elixir is refined from an immortal herb from the upper realm of Ling Long. It can be considered as an immortal elixir that can increase one's lifespan," the human emperor explained. The old storyteller's heart skipped a beat. After cultivating to the realm of emperors, any elixir that could increase one's lifespan in Tianhuang mainland would be useless to them. To think that the human emperor would bring along an immortal elixir personally refined by Fairy Ling Long when he descended, the human emperor said, "Of course, this immortal elixir won't increase your lifespan by much. It's all right. The old storyteller was excited as he hurriedly received the immortal elixir and swallowed it. For someone who was about to die, no matter how little their lifespan was increased, they would at least be able to survive. Furthermore, there was hope as long as they survived. At the very least, the old storyteller could choose to transcend the tribulation and take the risk. After pausing for a moment, the human emperor continued, "Of course, it's more or less enough to increase your lifespan by tens of thousands of years." The old storyteller was stunned. Psst! Gasps could also be heard from the crowd. Tens of thousands of years of lifespan. This meant that the old storyteller would recover to his peak after consuming this elixir. "Senior human emperor, you're taking such short breaths." Little Fatty muttered softly at the side. Shi Jian revealed a look of admiration. As expected of the human emperor of history, an increase of tens of thousands of years of lifespan is nothing in the eyes of the human emperor. After swallowing the immortal elixir, a terrifying life force burst forth and swept through the old storyteller's body, bloodline, organs and essence spirit. The old storyteller's white hair fell off and his long, black hair grew back at a visible speed. The wrinkles on the old storyteller's face vanished, and even his beard was gone. He looked radiant and full of life. Lin Xuanji was stunned, and his eyes were brimming with tears, completely dumbfounded. What was going on? In the blink of an eye, this old man was radiating a second spring and looked even younger than him. Did he cry for nothing? My good disciple, hurry and get up. The old storyteller looked at Lin Xuanji and said with a smile with a mocking gaze. Screech! Lin Xuanji jumped up from the ground and turned to leave. The tears on his face had not even dried as he grit his teeth. You're so unreasonable, old man. How dare you mock me? Chapter 1653. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Succession of the Human Emperor, page 1/1. The Human Emperor returned the Emperor brush to the guardian of the palace and bestowed an immortal elixir to the old storyteller. This also meant that the next guardian of the palace would be the mystic emperor of this generation. The Human Emperor was left with two emperor weapons, the Human Emperor Mirror and Human Emperor Seal. The Human Emperor glanced sideways, as though he had passed through the voids and landed in a corner of the Heaven Evolution mountain range. There was a long-haired man in grayish-white robes with a blood scar on his glabella. His eyes were clear and gentle, as though they contained endless wisdom. However, there was an extremely evil aura exuding from the white-robed man. Two completely different auras were revealed from the white-robed man. The white-robed man had once entered the Human Emperor's palace and obtained his inheritance. Just now, the Human Emperor fought against the emperors of the primordial races to retrieve the Human Emperor Mirror from this person. The Human Emperor pondered for a moment before raising his hand and tossing the Human Emperor Mirror into the air. It turned into a stream of light and entered the Heaven Evolution mountain range, returning to the hands of the white-robed man. The white-robed man shuddered with a conflicted expression. He believed that the Human Emperor would definitely be able to tell what was wrong with him, given his methods and judgment. However, the Human Emperor still chose to hand the Human Emperor Mirror to him. This was a form of silent trust. The white-robed man sighed gently and held the Human Emperor Mirror with both hands. He bowed deeply in the direction of the Human Emperor and chanted a Buddhist proclamation. In Enigma Palace, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when he noticed the Human Emperor's actions. While others did not know the whereabouts of the Human Emperor Mirror, he knew very well that it had already returned to Monk Daming. In other words, Monk Daming was still in the Heaven Evolution mountain range. As though he thought of something, Su Zimo revealed a mysterious smile. Araki Takashi, I'll return your body to you. The voice of the Human Emperor sounded once more. With a whoosh, the Human Emperor's essence spirit left the head of Qinglian's true body and flew towards the rift that shone with a blazing white light in the firmaments. Human Emperor. Many cultivators shouted with reluctance when they saw the Human Emperor leave. The Human Emperor's nascent divinity came to a stop beside the Human Emperor's palace. With a thought, a blank scroll flew out from the palace. The beings of the myriad races looked at this scene with confused expressions. No one knew what the Human Emperor wanted to do, or what his intentions were. The guard seemed to have realized something. He came to the human sovereign's side and asked in a low voice, Master, why don't I write it? No. The Human Emperor shook his head. I want to write it myself. The guardian nodded and handed the Emperor brush over respectfully. The Human Emperor activated his primordial spirit, and the Emperor brush landed on the battlefield, absorbing the blood of Tian Shenhuang and the other experts of the primordial races. The silver pen tip quickly turned blood red. The Human Emperor controlled the Emperor brush and started writing on the blank scroll. Majestic words landed on the paper. Every single word was written with the blood of the monarchs of the primordial races. Their killing intent surged and was bone-chilling. Although the Human Emperor did not have a physical body, every time he wrote a word, his voice would sound in the firmaments in a deafening manner. The decline of the human race is due to the incompetence of the emperors. Of the first 8 words, the weight of the incompetence of the emperors was extremely heavy. It was referring to the emperors of the human race, who hid in the ancient battlefield and did not dare to show themselves. Only the Human Emperor had the authority and qualifications to reprimand the emperors of the human race. Today, I heard that Araki Takashi rose in Tianhuang mainland and established the Wu Dao, bringing blessings to all living beings. I, the human emperor, have decided to pass down my position to Araki Takashi. When Araki Takashi is conferred the title of emperor, he will be the human emperor and be revered by the world. A majestic voice spread through Tianhuang mainland and reverberated through the world. The world was shocked. The experts of Enigma Palace shuddered violently. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Throughout history, there had been many emperors of the human race and some powerful monster incarnates. However, none of them dared to call themselves the human emperor. In the hearts of the human race, there was only one human emperor. And now, the human emperor had personally issued a decree to pass down his position to Araki Takashi. Although Araki Takashi was only a Mahayana ancestral patriarch, once Araki Takashi was conferred the title of emperor, he would be the new human emperor and be revered by the world. In an instant, a mysterious force suddenly appeared on Suzumo's body. Although he was only a Mahayana ancestral patriarch, he exuded a powerful aura. An endless stream of mysterious force gathered on Suzumo's body. This force could not be seen with the naked eye. Only the ancestral patriarchs and emperors present could sense it with their powerful consciousness. The human emperor's conferment of the world's providence, Emperor Qianlong murmured. The human emperor has great means. By gathering the providence of the world, his cultivation speed will become extremely terrifying, and he will be blessed with many blessings. Emperor Kuan said. However, the providence of the world is accompanied by a calamity of life and death. By gathering the providence of the world, it means that Araki Takashi will have to bear an unimaginable calamity. The throne of the human emperor is not that easy to obtain. The barbaric emperor nodded and said, the human emperor has personally issued a decree to pass the position of the human emperor to a Mahayana stage patriarch. This will definitely draw the jealousy of the other patriarchs, and even the displeasure of the human emperors. After a pause, Emperor Man grinned and said, the human emperor's decision will be a blessing for Araki Takashi. Hehe. Emperor Qianlong laughed and said, do you think the human emperor has not thought of this? What do you mean? Emperor Man and Emperor Kuan asked. Emperor Qianlong said, the human emperor's decision to pass down the throne is to let the world and the emperors of the human race see it. The throne of the human emperor is just a title. Whether or not Araki Takashi will be conferred the title of the human emperor is not important. The human emperor's goal is to gather the providence of the world for Araki Takashi, so that Araki Takashi can bear the calamity. He even wants the emperors of the human race to train him. This is the human emperor's real intention. Emperor Man and Emperor Kuan were shocked. In midair, the human emperor's decree shone with boundless blood-red light. Every word was clear and exuded a terrifying aura. The human emperor's consciousness moved, and the human emperor's seal landed at the end of the decree, leaving a mark. Young Araki Takashi, this decree and the human emperor's seal are yours. The human emperor rolled up the decree and threw it to Suzumo together with the human emperor's seal. Then he laughed and turned to leave. Young Araki Takashi, I will be waiting for you in the upper world. The human emperor's voice sounded. I hope that we can meet in the upper world and fight side by side. The human emperor's primordial spirit entered the crack that flickered with blazing brilliance and disappeared. The human emperor's decree and the human emperor's seal descended. Suzumo reached out and caught them. At that moment the world shook. Boundless providence from all directions gathered crazily on Suzumo's body. It even condensed into a physical form and transformed into a dragon's aura. The dragon's roar was endless, and the imperial aura filled the air. This was the providence that only the human emperor could bear. However, Suzumo did not move. He held the human emperor's decree in his left hand, and the human emperor's seal in his right hand. His eyes were cold and majestic. All the living beings lowered their heads, and no one dared to look at him in the eye. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 1654. Although the human emperor had left, he wrote personally and handed down the human emperor's decree and seal to Suzumo to gather the providence of the world. At that moment, although Suzumo was only at the Mahayana realm, he already exuded the aura of an emperor and looked down on the world. Greetings, human emperor. The storyteller old man cupped his fists toward Su Zimo and bowed first. The storyteller old man was the current mystic emperor. Now that the mystic emperor took the lead to greet him, the remaining 5 emperors bowed hurriedly with respectful expressions. With the 6 emperors acting in such a manner, the other cultivators, regardless of whether they were willing or not, regardless of whether they were dissatisfied, jealous, or indignant, felt immense pressure at that moment and knelt down one after another. This was the general trend. With the succession of the human emperor, Su Zimo's momentum had already been accumulated. Seniors, there's no need for that. Su Zimo put away the human emperor's decree and seal and hurried forward, raising the storyteller old man's arms. I don't deserve the title of the human emperor. Be it the ancient era or this era, there's only one human emperor. If I'm conferred the title of emperor in the future, I won't be called the human emperor. That was Su Zimo's respect for the human emperor. In his heart and the hearts of the living beings of the 10,000 races, there was only one human emperor. Senior Mystic Emperor, I hope that you guys will step forward and continue hosting this convention. Su Zimo said in a deep voice. Of course, the storyteller old man nodded. Every one of the primordial races. Do you have any objections to the convention continuing? The storyteller old man looked at the clan leader of the witch race, and the others, and asked in a deep voice. No objections. The clan leaders of the witch and heavenly eye race shook their heads. The descent of the human emperor changed the situation completely. All the primordial races were scared half to death, and had yet to break free from their fear. Who would dare to object? Hey! Little Fatty suddenly jumped out and pointed in the direction of the witch and golden crow races, asking loudly. The convention continues. Where are the emperors of the primordial 6 races? Why aren't there any emperors coming out? Perhaps they're scared out of their wits, Shurjian murmured. Little Fatty rolled his eyes, curled his lips and said, They don't have much ability. They're just a bunch of cowardly idiots. You were so arrogant just now. Do you think you're so awesome? The two of them echoed each other, and the expression of the primordial 6 races patriarchs turned extremely ugly. Just now, they were humiliating the human race, and mocking the human emperors for being a bunch of cowardly rats. But now the heavenly Tao was reincarnated. When the eternal human sovereign descended, Tian Shen Huang, underworld shaman sovereign, and the others were either dead or injured. Even though the human emperor had already left, the remaining emperors of the primordial 6 races were so scared that they hid in the forbidden grounds, not daring to appear. The human sovereign had just left. Who knew if the human sovereign had any other tricks up his sleeve? The human emperor's descent this time round was not only a few emperors that died on the surface, it was more of an invisible deterrence for the primordial 6 races. The Protoss patriarch coughed lightly and said, As the patriarchs of the primordial races, we can completely make the decision regarding the convention of 1,000 races. Right. The witch patriarch and the others nodded hurriedly. The storyteller glanced at the Protoss patriarch indifferently and said, The convention of 1,000 races can continue, but it doesn't include you, the Protoss. The Protoss patriarch's expression changed. The storyteller said, We'll decide on the Protoss after the discussion of the 1,000 races is over. The Protoss patriarch did not dare to refute. Emperor Chen Long, barbarian sovereign, Kuan sovereign, what do you think? The storyteller patriarch turned to look at the 3 of them and asked, his attitude clearly much gentler. The storyteller patriarch was especially respectful towards the Emperor Chen Long. If the Emperor Chen Long was not around for this convention of 1,000 races, Tian Shen Huang and the others would have no qualms and would have attacked fearlessly. But now that the underworld shaman sovereign and golden crow fire sovereign had fled with severe injuries, although the Emperor Chen Long was old, he was still the strongest emperor in Tianhuang mainland. I have no objections. The Emperor Chen Long nodded. The storyteller patriarch looked at the few demon sovereigns and living beings beside him, and said in a deep voice, Since that's the case, the convention of 1,000 races shall continue. Although a human emperor had descended, the strength of the human race in this generation was still far from the primordial races. If they were to force the primordial races too much, it would only backfire. At the moment, the human race was still unable to go against the primordial races. The storyteller patriarch still proposed the coexistence of the 10,000 races. Apart from the Protoss, the territories of the primordial 8 races could be expanded. The people of the primordial races did not have to stay in a corner and could roam freely on Tianhuang mainland. However, they could not kill the living beings of the 10,000 races recklessly. The 10,000 races had to coexist on Tianhuang mainland in a peaceful manner. There could be killing and fighting, but they could not kill wantonly for no reason, bully the weak and enslave the weak. The Emperor Chunlong, barbarian sovereign, and Kuan sovereign were very satisfied with that suggestion. The remaining 5 races had no objections either. Next, the 10,000 races gathered to discuss how to divide the territory. This was a rather detailed, complicated, and massive project. It would be difficult to finalize it without a few days and nights. Su Zimo was not interested in such matters. At that moment, he was resting with his eyes closed and his mind had long wandered off. Heaven Evolution Mountain Range. A purple-robed cultivator arrived. The cultivator's face was shrouded in a layer of fog, such that his features could not be seen clearly. However, he exuded an unstoppable aura of a ruler. Wu Dao's true body had descended. Wu Dao's true body surveyed his surroundings and sensed for a moment before walking in a certain direction at an unhurried speed. However, in a short period of time, Wu Dao's true body traversed almost the entire Heaven Evolution mountain range and arrived at an inconspicuous corner outside the mountain range. The surrounding vegetation was lush and ancient trees stood tall with lush leaves. Wu Dao's true body descended and retracted his aura, as though he had fused into the world. It was as though he was the wind in this world and the vegetation in the surroundings. At that moment, even if someone were to stand in front of Wu Dao's true body, they would not be able to sense the existence of Wu Dao's true body as long as they closed their eyes or released their spirit consciousness. In the depths of this corner, there was a dark cave. Wu Dao's true body smiled gently and walked towards the cave. Within the cave, a white-robed man sat cross-legged. When his fingertips touched the ground, his entire finger turned scarlet. The white-robed man closed his eyes and calmed his mind, refining the bloodline of the place carefully. The bloodline left behind on the battlefield of Enigma Palace was the strongest. However, he did not dare to touch it for fear of alarming the many emperors of Enigma Palace. Countless living beings in the Heaven Evolution mountain range died in the battle between the emperors. At that moment, the white-robed man was refining the bloodline of those living beings. The human emperor mirror was an emperor weapon. However, he was only a half-martial ancestor. Just now, in order to help the human race tide through this crisis, he forcefully activated the human emperor mirror and suffered a considerable backlash. Under normal circumstances, he would need at least a few days of recuperation for such injuries to heal. However, using the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to refine the bloodline and convert it into endless essence chi that entered his body, his recovery speed was countless times faster than before. End of chapter. Chapter 1655. About an hour later, the white-robed man heaved a sigh of relief. His injuries had already healed. Most importantly, he had already sensed the opportunity to advance to the Mahayana realm. Opening his eyes, the white-robed man prepared to leave this place and find a safe place to break through to the Mahayana realm. However, the moment he opened his eyes, his pupils constricted slightly. Even with his calm temperament, his expression still changed. There was a person standing not far in front of him. It was a purple-robed cultivator with a layer of mist shrouding his face. Even with his vision, he could not see through that layer of mist. Monk Daming released his spirit consciousness and scanned the purple-robed cultivator, feeling even more wary. Up till this point of his cultivation, the strength of his spirit consciousness was even stronger than some ordinary Mahayana patriarchs. Even so, even with his powerful spirit consciousness, he could not see through the mist and detect the appearance of the purple-robed cultivator. He could only detect that the mysterious purple-robed man before him was also a half-martial ancestor expert. He did not know anything else. That was not the most important thing. What truly alarmed the white-robed man was that he did not detect when this mysterious person appeared at all. For a half-martial ancestor expert, the distance of dozens of feet between them could be closed instantly. In other words, if the mysterious purple-robed man just now had ill intentions and attacked him, there was a 50% chance that he would have been injured. There was another 50% chance. The moment the mysterious purple-robed man attacked, he would have sensed it and reacted. Therefore, in the eyes of the white-robed man, although the purple-robed cultivator was mysterious, he could not threaten him despite having the initiative. He was confident of that. No one in the half-martial ancestor realm was a match for him. How long have you been here? The white-robed man calmed down swiftly and stood up, asking indifferently. Less than an hour, the mysterious purple-robed man, who was also Wu Dao's true body, replied. Wu Dao's true body's voice changed intentionally as well. You're here to look for me? The white-robed man asked again. Yes, Wu Dao's true body replied. The white-robed man squinted his eyes, and the vertical eye between his eyebrows cracked open, emitting a powerful force. He wanted to see through the fog on Wu Dao's face, but after staring at it for a while, he still couldn't find anything. The white-robed man tried his best to recall, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find any information that matched this mysterious person. The white-robed man believed that he had never seen this person before. If he had met such a special person, he would definitely remember him. I don't know you. You've got the wrong person, the white-robed man said. Wu Dao's main body smiled and said, It doesn't matter if you don't know me. I know you. Oh, the white-robed man smiled and asked, You know who I am? Monk Daming, Wu Dao's true body slowly said. Hearing these three words, the white-robed man was expressionless, but his heart was in turmoil. The white-robed man was Monk Daming. When he returned in this life, he was very careful in his actions. He planned before taking action, and no one knew his true identity. No one had even seen him before. Even if someone saw him, they wouldn't be able to recognize him. That was because he was someone who should have died 40,000 years ago. However, Monk Daming had never expected that the mysterious man in front of him would be able to expose his identity with a single sentence. Why are you looking for me? Monk Daming asked in return. It was a tacit acknowledgement of his identity. To kill you. The moment Wu Dao's true body said those two words, the temperature in the cave plummeted. Monk Daming smiled gently and was not annoyed at all. He asked again, Since you've been here for a long time and want to kill me, why aren't you doing it just now? I'm waiting for you to recuperate. Wu Dao's true body said, You're injured. Even if I kill you, I won't feel anything. Fufu, how interesting. This time round Monk Daming laughed out loud. He had lived for more than 40,000 years, and no one had dared to say such arrogant words in front of him. Although this mysterious person wanted to kill him, he wanted to wait until his injuries were fully healed. Monk Daming said faintly, I'm injured. If you don't attack, you'll lose your final chance. Before he finished his sentence, Monk Daming chanted in Sanskrit. Om, Ma, and I, Pa, me, Om. It was the ultimate skill of Daming Monastery, the 6 words Daming mantra. At the same time, Monk Daming's palms conjured hand seals repeatedly. Coupled with the 6 words Daming mantra, 6 incomparably powerful dermic seals were released. Fiend Suppression Seal, Demon Subduing Seal, Immortal Trap Seal, Immovable Foundation Seal, Great Vajrawheel Seal and Great Mount Meru Seal. The 6 dermic seals descended with terrifying might and shrouded Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body did not make any stance. He strode forward and extended his palm. Clenching it into a fist, he punched towards the 6 dermic seals before him. Break! At the same time Wu Dao's true body hollered. His voice was thunderous and exploded. It was only one word, but it suppressed the sound of the 6 words Great Bright Mantra. Boom! Wu Dao's true body's fists collided against the 6 dermic seals and exploded with a deafening sound. Instantly, the 6 dermic seals collapsed and dissipated. Monk Daming's gaze froze. The mysterious man did not release any dermic arts, nor did he circulate his blood chi. He merely destroyed the Daming dermic seals with a single punch. The mysterious man was extremely strong, However, Monk Daming was fearless. He believed that he was invincible among half-martial ancestors. It was rare for him to meet such an opponent. His eyes burned with a rumbling battle intent as he charged towards Wu Dao's true body in a flash. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were already inches apart. Monk Daming was prepared to engage in melee combat with Wu Dao's true body. The heart should be born without a place to reside. Monk Daming murmured softly and released a secret skill of Diamond Monastery right away. Dong! Monk Daming's chest pulsated with a dull thud. It was as though an ancient heavenly god was beating a drum. The sound was deep, powerful, and shuddering. Monk Daming's heart shone with a resplendent golden light. With this jump, an extremely terrifying bloodline burst forth, instantly surging to his limbs, bones, and internal organs. Splash! The sound of tsunami blood could be heard from Monk Daming's body. In fact, his body was even shrouded with a shimmering golden Buddhist light. At that moment, Monk Daming seemed to have transformed into an ancient Buddha that was incomparably dignified. His dermic powers were boundless and his might was terrifying. He wanted to subdue all fiends. Splash! Wu Dao's true body channeled his bloodline and reached the tsunami blood realm as well. Boom! Wu Dao's true body had an indifferent expression. Against the sacred and dignified Monk Daming, he did not hold back at all and struck once more. It was still a simple punch. Boom! Monk Daming punched out as well. There was a deafening sound. Their fists heavily collided, bursting forth with an extremely terrifying halo of power, causing the entire cave to tremble. Countless gravel rolled down. Monk Daming grunted and staggered back half a step. Wu Dao's true body was expressionless as he took half a step forward. Like a shadow, he punched out once more in a fiery manner. Monk Daming could only defend with his fists. Boom! There was another deafening sound. Monk Daming retreated once more, and the golden light on his body flickered before dimming rapidly. End of chapter. Chapter 1656. Enigma Palace. Although Su Zimo's other two true bodies seemed to be resting with their eyes closed, their minds were already immersed in the Heaven Evolution mountain range, sensing the battle that was happening in a corner of the mountain range. Ever since Monk Daming was born, Qinglian's true body had always been led by him. The two of them had fought once before and Qinglian's true body was defeated miserably as well. Later on, Monk Daming even made use of the conflict between Qinglian's true body and Enigma Palace to infiltrate Enigma Palace and steal their secret manual, the Mystic Heaven Record. The feeling that Monk Daming gave Su Zimo was that he was unfathomable. In fact, he did not even know how strong Monk Daming's true combat strength was. This time round, Wu Dao's true body sought out Monk Daming partly to test his limits. At the same time, he wanted to verify what he had learned. Wu Dao's true body was already at the half-martial ancestor realm and was only half a step away from the Mahayana realm. He needed a strong opponent to temper Wu Dao. Monk Daming was the perfect opponent for Wu Dao's true body. Therefore, the reason why Wu Dao's true body waited for Monk Daming to recover before attacking was because he did not want to take advantage of him. The reason why he said that he wanted to kill Monk Daming was because he wanted the latter to use his full strength without holding back. Su Zimo knew Monk Daming very well. Monk Daming was way too shrewd. If he did not display extreme hostility, Monk Daming would not have revealed all his trump cards and methods. Of course, this battle was also because Su Zimo was angry. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had been invincible against strong opponents of the same cultivation realm. However, he had suffered in the hands of Monk Daming time and time again. The reason why Wu Dao's true body sought out Monk Daming this time round was also to vent his anger. Furthermore, Monk Daming had admitted that he had indeed wanted to kill Su Zimo. It was not too much for Wu Dao's true body to scare Monk Daming. In the cave, Wu Dao's true body and Monk Daming channeled their bloodlines to the tsunami realm. After exchanging two punches, Monk Daming retreated continuously, and his diamond heart was almost destroyed. A look of shock flashed through Monk Daming's eyes. He had practiced many body refinement techniques. 40,000 years ago, no one had been able to suppress him in close combat. Now that he had returned with the help of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and many other cultivation techniques, his combat strength was many times stronger than before. But when he clashed with this purple-robed mysterious person, he was actually unable to gain the slightest bit of advantage. Wu Dao's eyes also flashed with a hint of admiration. Monk Daming was indeed very strong. Wu Dao hadn't unleashed his full power, but just now, even an ordinary Grand Ascension stage patriarch might not be able to withstand those 2 punches. As for Monk Daming, although he was retreating, he made use of the momentum of his retreat to disperse most of the power and redirected it underground. He was completely unharmed. A few deep footprints appeared beneath Monk Daming's feet. Even Wu Dao's true body had not seen such a secret skill to disperse force before. Indeed, you have some capabilities. No wonder you dared to come looking for me. A gentle smile appeared on Monk Daming's face. Monk Daming looked at Wu Dao's true body with a deep gaze that resembled the starry skies. It seemed to contain endless mysteries that attracted one to explore and fall into them. Wu Dao's true body said indifferently, "Don't show off such an illusion secret skill." Monk Daming was extremely skilled in illusions. He was the one who set up the illusion in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. At that time, Monk Daming was only at the Dharma characteristic realm. However, many conjoint body mighty figures could not break free from it, and Qinglian's true body was not spared as well. However, that secret skill was child's play against Wu Dao's true body. Interesting. Monk Daming cracked his fingers and his gaze intensified. His bloodline rose once more, and the tsunami within his body rumbled, as an extremely shocking phenomenon appeared behind him. It was a boundless sea of blood that was extremely evil. It was as though a peerless fiend was being nurtured within the sea of blood. However, above the sea of blood floated a sacred ancient Buddha. It shone with a golden light, and had a benevolent gaze, as though it wanted to purify all living beings. The 2 opposing auras fused perfectly within the bloodline phenomenon, forming a powerful visual and mental impact. Monk Daming released his bloodline phenomenon and walked towards Wu Dao's true body. The gaze of Wu Dao's true body was like a torch that burned with 2 balls of flames. His entire body seemed to have vanished and was replaced by a gigantic furnace. Swoosh! Flames surged within the furnace and incinerated everything. Before Monk Daming even approached, he felt a scorching aura, and his skin burned painfully. In fact, the sea of blood behind him was already boiling. The stone walls around the cave had already begun to melt, turning into boiling hot lava. Thick smoke rose from it as it slowly flowed down. Boom! Wu Dao's true body struck once more and threw out a punch. This punch was burning with blazing flames. It was like a volcano erupting with an extremely terrifying power that came crashing down with a loud bang. Monk Daming's expression finally changed. He released his bloodline phenomenon, and his strength increased exponentially. However, he had not expected that the mysterious man's bloodline phenomenon would be even more frightening. Even his bloodline phenomenon was showing signs of collapse. Boom! Monk Daming exchanged another punch with Wu Dao's true body. Crack! 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 The golden light on Monk Daming's body shattered and dimmed completely. His diamond heart was destroyed by a single punch from Wu Dao's true body. Bang! 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 Wu Dao's true body closed in step by step, and threw out punch after punch. Monk Daming waved his fists as well, and took it head-on. He retreated continuously, and made use of secret skills to dissipate the power of Wu Dao's true body. The power released by every single punch from Wu Dao's true body was way too ferocious. It was as violent as fire, as turbulent as the seas and as heavy as a mountain. Even Monk Daming felt a sense of suffocation. However, he knew very well that the consumption of power was immense. As time passed, Wu Dao's true body's blood qi would weaken, and he would not be able to sustain his strength. That would be the time for him to counterattack. However, 10 breaths passed. Wu Dao's true body punched dozens of times, and each punch was more ferocious and stronger than the previous. There seemed to be no limit to it. Initially, Monk Daming could still make use of his secret skills to dissipate most of the power of Wu Dao's true body. Later on, the power released by Wu Dao's true body was so ferocious that even his secret skills could not dissipate it. Boom! There was another deafening sound. The bloodline phenomenon behind monk Daming was shattered by the fists of Wu Dao's true body and Wu Dao's cauldron. Swash! Monk Daming's figure flashed, and he no longer fought with monk Daming head-on. Instead, he used a mysterious footwork and circled around Wu Dao's true body. That was a footwork from the mystic heaven record that was created by Fairy Ling Long, and was naturally extremely mysterious. Wu Dao's true body punched out a few times in succession, but all of them missed. Wu Dao's true body closed his eyes and senses. With his powerful spirit perception, he sensed monk Daming's position and landing spot, and attacked once more. This time round, monk Daming had nowhere to hide. Monk Daming conjured a secret skill, and released more than 1,000 palm shadows with both hands, colliding against Wu Dao's true body's punch. Boom! The dermic art dissipated. Wu Dao's true body's fist did not stop, and punched towards monk Daming's head. Suddenly, a gigantic ancient temple descended before monk Daming. Boom! Wu Dao's true body's fist struck the ancient temple heavily. The ancient temple trembled and dust fell, creating a series of creaking noises. End of chapter. Chapter 1657. Although the exchange between the two of them was short, each time they clashed, an extremely terrifying power was released. Even ordinary Mahayana patriarchs would tremble in fear if they were to descend with that power. Right from the beginning, Wu Dao's true body maintained absolute suppression against monk Daming. Monk Daming cultivated many complicated cultivation techniques, and they were all top-tier secret skills of the super sections. However, when those dermic arts were released, they were shattered by Wu Dao's true body's fist, breaking through all dermic arts with brute force. The body of Wu Dao's true body was a furnace of Wu Dao that was tempered by his martial spirit all year round. It refined all dermic arts, nurtured hundreds of scriptures and tempered his tendons, bones and bloodline. It was incomparably powerful. Monk Daming could not hold on any longer, and summoned his destiny dermic weapon, the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, right away. His Grand Primordium Ancient Temple had a great background, and was most likely a treasure that fell from the upper world. Even the dermic treasures of Mahayana patriarchs could not penetrate it. However, the punch of Wu Dao's true body caused the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple to tremble violently. Take out your dermic weapon. Monk Daming controlled the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple with one hand, and the human emperor mirror with the other, saying sternly, "Haha!" Wu Dao's true body roared with laughter. "I don't have any dermic weapons. My physical body and fist are my dermic weapons." Before his laughter was finished, Wu Dao's true body strode forward and punched monk Daming's head once more. Monk Daming used the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple to fight against it. Boom! There was a deafening sound. At the same time, monk Daming channeled the human emperor mirror in his hands, and released a divine light that collided with Wu Dao's true body. Although the human emperor mirror had the strongest defense, it could also release powerful attacks. Furthermore, the human emperor mirror had just left the hands of the ancient human emperor, and there was still a hint of the might of a ruler on the ancient mirror. The divine light penetrated the void and descended before Wu Dao's true body instantly. Dong! Wu Dao's main body didn't have enough time to dodge, and was struck in the chest by the divine light, making a muffled sound. This time, it was as if he had crashed into a furnace. The expression of Wu Dao's true body did not change. After being struck by the human emperor mirror, the clothes on his chest were torn, but there was no injury on his chest at all. Monk Daming narrowed his eyes slightly. Through the chest of Wu Dao's true body, one could vaguely see the boundless brilliance of runes flickering within his body, as if flames were burning within. It was hard to imagine what kind of Dao and Dharma was condensed in this body. Even the human emperor mirror couldn't hurt him. The thing that shocked monk Daming the most was that even after the two of them had fought until now, he still couldn't see through this person's lineage. This person's cultivation technique did not seem to belong to the school of immortals, Buddhas, or fiends. But it was extremely terrifying. Moreover, he could tell that this mysterious person had no intention of concealing his cultivation method inheritance. Even though this person came and went with only a single punch, there were no changes. However, every single punch contained countless Dao arts and had a terrifying might with a ferocious aura. The powerful intent contained within every single punch was enough to shake Monk Daming's mind. Monk Daming felt immense pressure as the punches landed one after another. Monk Daming released his trump cards repeatedly, and his strength increased continuously. What made him feel helpless was that the mysterious person's strength was increasing as well, as though there was no end to it. He couldn't even break free and leave if he wanted to. During the battle, there were several times when he wanted to leave this place and escape far away. However, he would be intercepted by the mysterious purple-robed man each time. This person's movement technique was shockingly fast as well. Ever since he started cultivating, this was the first time he felt troubled. Even when he faced that powerful enemy 40,000 years ago, he didn't feel this way. The punches of Wu Dao's true body intensified. Monk Daming retreated continuously. In the end, he didn't even have space to dodge. "Who are you?" Monk Daming narrowed his eyes, and a scarlet glint flashed through his eyes with killing intent. Wu Dao's true body did not reply and attacked even more ferociously. "It wasn't easy for you to cultivate, and your combat strength is strong. You're definitely a rare monster incarnate." Monk Daming had a conflicted expression. "Initially, I didn't want to kill you. However, I don't want to die, and all the more I can't die. I have more important things to do." The moment he said that, Monk Daming's eyes turned completely bloodshot. An extremely evil aura emanated from his body, and he was filled with the stench of blood. Monk Daming sliced his wrist with his fingernails. Shing! Blood splattered. Before the blood splattered on the ground, Monk Daming gathered his hands, and a blood-red saber appeared in his palms. Blood flowed on the saber as though it was alive and was extremely evil. Slash! Monk Daming swung the blood-red saber and slashed down towards Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body was expressionless and threw a punch over. Swoosh! The punch struck the blood-red saber, but there was not much of a commotion. It was as though the blood-red saber was broken by Wu Dao's true body. All the blood scattered and splattered onto Wu Dao's true body. Ba! Monk Daming looked at Wu Dao's true body and chanted a Buddhist proclamation before channeling the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The blood that splattered on Wu Dao's true body contained an extremely terrifying power, as though it wanted to extract the blood from Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body exclaimed softly and nodded. This fiend technique is indeed powerful. When Monk Daming released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, the blood within Wu Dao's true body stirred. If it was anyone else, they would have been refined into a dried corpse by Monk Daming instantly. Monk Daming's eyes were filled with shock as well. Given his comprehension of this fiend technique, he could suck dry the bloodline of some half-martial ancestors with a casual breath, as long as he circulated his mental cultivation technique. But now, the Blood Refinement Fiend Saber that he conjured was still unable to refine the mysterious purple-robed man's bloodline when it landed on him. Furthermore, judging from how relaxed that person was, he did not seem to be affected much. Refine! Right then, Wu Dao's true body spoke slowly. Flames burned within his body, and his martial spirit burned furiously, causing his body to turn a crystalline scarlet. The tainted blood that splattered on his body began to evaporate. Within the filthy blood, there were even waves of wailing and howling that sounded like ghosts and wolves. Countless phantoms circled around Wu Dao's true body and struggled. However, they could not break free, and were refined into nothingness in the blink of an eye. The tainted blood on Wu Dao's true body was completely refined as well. His body was flawless and his blood qi surged violently. His aura became even stronger and heat waves surged, as though he wanted to refine everything. "If that's all you're capable of, today will be the day you die," Wu Dao's true body said coldly as he strode towards Monk Daming. Raising his hand, he punched out like a gigantic fireball towards Monk Daming. Chapter 1658. Monk Daming lowered his head, and the long hair in front of his forehead swayed gently. All of a sudden, the blood scar on his glabella split open, revealing a blood-red heavenly eye. It was frightening and sinister, like the eye of an evil spirit, emanating a shuddering aura. Instantly, it was as though everything had vanished from the eyes of Wu Dao's true body. The blood-colored heavenly eye was the only thing left. Eye of Death. This was the strongest visual technique ranked #1 of the heavenly eye race. Throughout history, there were many members of the heavenly eye race who cultivated this visual technique. However, there were very few who managed to do so. In order to cultivate this Eye of Death, the young master of this generation of the heavenly eye race, Remnant Eye, did not hesitate to blind himself right from the start of his cultivation, so that he would never be able to see the light for the rest of his life. As for the last person of the heavenly eye race who managed to cultivate Eye of Death, it was 40,000 years ago. Unfortunately, that child's bloodline was impure, and he was a remnant of the heavenly eye race. It was nice to call him a remnant. However, in the eyes of the heavenly eye race, that child was a bastard. That child was once bullied and humiliated in the heavenly eye race, and nearly died. In the end, an accomplished monk of Daming Monastery passed by and saved him. The monk did not despise him because of his bloodline, and took him in as a disciple. That child was the titular disciple of Daming Monastery, whose name shook Tianhuang mainland later on, Monk Daming. The face of the martial Dao body, which was shrouded in mist, finally became somewhat solemn. The reason why Eye of Death was incomparably powerful was because not only did it contain the power of visual techniques, it could also cause an immense impact to the essence spirit. Ordinary visual techniques were equivalent to dermic arts. However, this visual technique was a fusion of dermic arts and essence spirit secret skills. However, even Eye of Death could not threaten Wu Dao's true body. What truly shocked the martial Dao true body was the fact that even though Monk Daming's visual technique was based on the Eye of Death, it had surpassed it. There was another type of power in that visual technique. In other words, Monk Daming had created a visual technique that surpassed Eye of Death. The eyes of Wu Dao's true body burst forth with two blazing flames, colliding with the eye technique. This was an eye technique that was born from the Illumination Dragon's eye. Wu Dao's true body had refined mini eye technique dermic formulations and transformed it, unleashing the power of fire to its limits. Boom! Two streaks of eye techniques burst forth and collided in an instant. The eyes of Wu Dao's true body released two beams of fire. Under the Eye of Death, they quickly dimmed, extinguished, and turned into nothingness. Monk Daming's Eye of Death was too terrifying. The moment Wu Dao's true body unleashed his eye technique, he realized that it would be very difficult for his eye technique to resist the Eye of Death. Therefore, Wu Dao's original body immediately used his hands to block in front of his eyes. At the same time, in Wu Dao's sea of consciousness, the martial soul fire appeared and blocked in front of his primordial spirit. Bang! The beam of light from Eye of Death landed on the palm of Wu Dao's true body. Instantly, the skin on the palm of Wu Dao's true body began to rot and fester. However, his blood qi surged and suppressed the power of Eye of Death firmly. A blood-colored beam of light appeared in the consciousness of Wu Dao's true body and charged towards his primordial spirit. Before it could reach him, it was burned to ashes by the martial soul fire. Monk Daming frowned slightly, and his body swayed for a moment. The blood scar on his glabella closed once more. His heavenly eye was finally closed. At that moment, the world seemed to have returned to normal. The dead silence vanished. Vitality descended once more. Ordinary essence spirit secret skills would cause one's primordial spirit to be severely injured upon colliding with the martial soul fire. However, Monk Daming's expression changed slightly, and he managed to withstand it. That eye technique is your trump card, right? It's indeed very strong. Wu Dao's true body nodded gently and praised from the bottom of his heart. Back in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, Qinglian's true body released an essence spirit secret skill. When Qinglian's sword slashed into Monk Daming's glabella, he was completely unharmed. It was clear how terrifying that heavenly eye was. Monk Daming was expressionless. Are you mocking me? No. Wu Dao's true body opened his palm. His palm was slightly rotten. However, in that short period of time, the injuries on his palm healed rapidly with the surge of his powerful blood qi. I've never been injured up till this point of my cultivation, Wu Dao's true body said. You should be proud that you were able to injure me with that eye technique of yours. Monk Daming smiled bitterly. On the surface, that statement sounded like a compliment. However, it was filled with immense confidence and boldness. Monk Daming felt a little bitter. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had only been defeated once 40,000 years ago. That defeat was the greatest humiliation of his life. However, even in that battle 40,000 years ago, both parties fought to the end before a victor was decided. Furthermore, it was a Pyrrhic victory for the other party as well. Monk Daming was much stronger than he was 40,000 years ago upon his return. To think that he would encounter such a mysterious monster incarnate. Furthermore, he was defeated even more miserably this time round. You're not from Tianhuang mainland? Monk Daming's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly asked. He knew some secrets. In this vast world, there were many worlds like Tianhuang mainland. This monster incarnate's cultivation technique was unique, and he could not tell if there was any inheritance. However, there was a high chance that he came from another world. I'm from Tianhuang mainland, Wu Dao's true body said. However, I've never seen such methods from you. Monk Daming frowned slightly. Wu Dao's true body smiled, and walked towards Monk Daming without saying anything. Are you going to kill me? Monk Daming had a calm expression. He had long seen through life and death. 40,000 years ago, he should have died. The only thing he could not let go of was something else. You're very strong, Monk Daming continued. However, you're still not strong enough. A slightly stronger half-martial ancestor, or patriarch would be enough to suppress you. Furthermore, there's an even more terrifying existence in Tianhuang mainland. You have to be careful and not let him notice you. The blood demon Dao Lord from 40,000 years ago. Wu Dao's true body asked instead. Monk Daming narrowed his gaze and did not answer directly. You sure know a lot of secrets. However, things are much more complicated and terrifying than you can imagine. Wu Dao's true body smiled and arrived before Monk Daming, reaching out with his palm. Monk Daming sighed internally and closed his eyes. Immediately after, Monk Daming felt his waist lighten, as though his storage bag had been taken away. He opened his eyes and saw Wu Dao's true body taking away his storage bag. Wu Dao's true body channeled his martial spirit fire, and wiped away the spirit consciousness on the storage bag. He opened it and took a look inside. Mystic Heaven Record. Wu Dao's true body caught sight of the secret skill of Enigma Palace right away. This is a cultivation technique of Enigma Palace. Please return it to Enigma Palace after you're done with it. Monk Daming said. Of course, Wu Dao's true body smiled. End of chapter. Chapter 1659. Apart from the Mystic Heaven Record, there were many other cultivation techniques and secret skills in the storage bag. Most of them were Buddhist cultivation techniques from the 6 monasteries of the Buddhist monasteries. Some of those cultivation techniques were top-tier dharmic and secret skills. However, there were many that were purely ancient sutras or incantations to calm one's mind. Those Buddhist cultivation techniques filled Monk Daming's storage bag to the brim. Why are you collecting so many ancient books of the Buddhist monasteries? Wu Dao's true body asked. If Monk Daming wanted to raise his cultivation, all he had to do was cultivate the top-tier Buddhist cultivation techniques. However, most of the things in the storage bag were Buddhist sutras that were not offensive. Those Buddhist sutras were meant for monks in the mortal world to spread their teachings. Although Wu Dao's true body refined all dharmic arts, those sutras were nothing to him, and he would not spend the effort to read them. Given Monk Daming's frightening intelligence, why would he do something as lame as that? Monk Daming remained silent when he heard the question from Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body rummaged through the storage bag and kept a few top-tier Buddhist cultivation techniques before tossing the storage bag to Monk Daming. Monk Daming frowned slightly and hesitated. I'll naturally return these cultivation techniques to their rightful owners after I read them. As though he could read Monk Daming's mind, Wu Dao's true body replied, You should be at the Mahayana realm soon. Wu Dao's true body smiled gently. I'll be waiting for you at the front. If you're indignant about your defeat today, We'll fight again. With that said, Wu Dao's true body turned around and headed into the distance. Monk Daming frowned and could not help but ask. You're leaving just like that? Didn't you want to kill me just now? It was just a casual remark. I just wanted to beat you up. The voice of Wu Dao's true body sounded. By the time he said the last word, his figure had already vanished completely. Monk Daming had a blank expression. Who was that mysterious purple-robed man? Even after the two of them fought, he could not tell what cultivation technique the mysterious person possessed. That was way too strange. Why did the mysterious purple-robed man want to beat him up when he came looking for him? Although Monk Daming was terrifyingly intelligent, he could not guess that the mysterious person was Su Zimo's third true body, Araki Takeshi's true body. Monk Daming pondered for a moment and extended his palm, his eyes misty as he pinched his fingers and began divining. Over the years, he had long since memorized the contents of the mysterious heaven record. He had also cultivated the secret deduction techniques, involved to an extremely deep level. After a moment, Monk Daming shuddered, and the fog in his eyes dissipated. In fact, there were even streaks of blood vessels in his eyes. He didn't manage to deduce anything. There was no result. Not only that, but he also suffered quite a bit of backlash. Fortunately, he had cut off the deduction process in time. Otherwise, his eyes might have gone blind. Monk Daming. Is Monk Daming. Taking a deep breath of air, Monk Daming composed himself and murmured softly, once I advance to the Mahayana realm, I'll naturally look for you to fight if there's a chance. Enigma Palace. Su Zimo retracted his consciousness and no longer paid attention to Wu Dao's true body. Indeed, Monk Daming had many trump cards and was more terrifying than he had imagined. However, he was still suppressed mercilessly against Wu Dao's true body. All schemes were nothing in the face of absolute power. The convention of the myriad races in Enigma Palace was still ongoing. Time passed by bit. The convention lasted for a full 7 days before it came to an end. The outcome of the convention of the myriad races was confirmed as well. The territories of the primordial 8 races could be expanded by 10 times. However, the primordial 8 races could not kill all living beings and humans in the expanded territories as they wished. They had to give the living beings the freedom to choose whether to stay in the distance or migrate. The experts of the primordial races could leave their respective forbidden grounds and no longer had to stay in a corner. However, if they entered the territories of other races, they could not injure anyone as they wished. The future of Tianhuang mainland would be the coexistence of the 10,000 races. Over the past few days, some news arrived at Enigma Palace one after another. A mysterious person barged into the 3 super sects of Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect, and Penglai Island, and swept away all the cultivation techniques and secret skills in the library. It was said that the disciples of these sects were all defeated when they fought against the mysterious person. Among them, even the patriarch died. Nobody could see the appearance of the mysterious person clearly. Nobody could tell the cultivation technique inheritance of the mysterious person either. Everything was a mystery. The patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect, and Penglai Island naturally had terrible expressions. All the cultivators knew that this was definitely not a coincidence. At the beginning of the convention of the myriad races, the 3 super sects were the first to submit to the primordial races. It was clear that the mysterious person did it on purpose. Some of the cultivation techniques and secret skills in the library were passed down through the ages. The loss this time round was a huge loss for the 3 super sections. Even if there were some cultivation methods and secret skills that had been cultivated by the experts of the sect, it was still extremely difficult to write down every single word of these cultivation methods and secret skills. Although the foundations of the 3 super sects were still present, the loss of the cultivation techniques in the library, this time round, was equivalent to shaking the foundations of the 3 super sects. Don't let me know who you are, the patriarch of Malevolent Earth Sect said hatefully. Otherwise, I'll definitely tear you into pieces. Fufu. Su Zimo sneered coldly. You're ferocious to human cultivators but obedient to the primordial races. truly capable. The patriarch of malevolent Earth sect narrowed his eyes and glared at Su Zimo with an unfriendly expression. Why? You want to fight? Su Zimo's gaze was filled with killing intent. The malevolent Earth sect patriarch tilted his head slightly and avoided Su Zimo's sharp gaze without saying anything. Araki Takashi was no longer the half-martial ancestor that they could suppress casually before the convention of the 1,000 races. Right now, Araki Takashi was at the Mahayana realm and was already a patriarch expert. More importantly, the human emperor had personally issued a decree to pass down the position and seal of the human emperor to Su Zimo personally. This was something that the entire world knew about. It could be said that right now, Araki Takashi was the new human emperor in the hearts of all living beings in the world. Furthermore, this was Enigma Palace. The dragons, guardians, and Enigma Palace's Dark Lord were here. Even if he had 100 guts, he would not dare to attack Araki Takashi here. Some Mahayana patriarchs exchanged glances without saying anything in tacit understanding. Now that Araki Takashi was at the Mahayana realm, he would definitely head to the ancient battlefield. Many experts in the ancient battlefield would be interested in Araki Takashi. At that moment, Su Zimo looked at the crack in the firmaments with a worried expression. That crack was left behind by the arrival of the human emperor in Tianhuang mainland. Although the human emperor had left, cracks had already appeared in Tianhuang mainland. Heaven and earth were flawed and the laws were in chaos. Nobody knew what kind of impact it would have. The crisis of the primordial races was temporarily resolved. However, Tianhuang mainland was still in a precarious situation with some hidden dangers. Once those hidden dangers were to erupt, they might be even more terrifying than the primordial 6 races. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.